Hello? Is this thing on? Yeah, I think so. How are we doing? Long time no see? Oh, it's only been like, you know, 3 months. Don't worry about it too much. Took a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back in time for midnight, you know? It's good to be back. I've enjoyed making videos again, to be honest. Um I don't know. Why was I gone? It was a bunch of things. I kind of like spoke about it in one of the 3 videos that I made in the past, like, 4 days, lol. Um, I had a lot going on IRL, so I moved house. Moving house is tough. Let me tell you this, it's not you don't just you don't just it's not like on WoW where you can just quickly build it and just, put in. Nah. Yeah, and it's not easy as well. You can't just, like, pick a plot of land and just be like, "There, that's the one." Nah, dudes. Oh my god. Uh, Nightmare. And then, as I suppose with all things, it was a house that needed some work, so I became a builder. A DIY builder. Not great. Don't ever ask me to do anything like that for you. It's bad. Um, but as well as that, honestly, I had WoW fatigue, I think. Um, I'd been playing non-stop, like, before I started doing, like, cutting edge content, like top whatever I am, top 30, I suppose. Like I just played casually, did Mythic once or twice a week. But it was very full on for like a year, right? I guess with like all games, you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. Um, I'm pretty hyped now for the expansion. I think I needed the break. I'll be real. And now I'm super excited making videos again. I've got a few ideas coming. Yeah, and we've got Midnight and raids and stuff, so cool. He's shiny. Yeah, I've been trying to mess with lighting settings. I might have to, like, do some more, um, off stream and stuff, but it's difficult. So I have a green screen, as you can maybe tell. I'm not actually in the peak of Serenity. I mean, maybe I am. Yeah, actually. But yeah, it's all new to me, cameras and stuff. So I got this like light that all the cool people use. It's like a halo light. I bought it. It came this morning because I didn't like the lighting too much. But I think it's a little bit too bright. I don't know. My nose is white, so sure. It looks like I've just got sun cream like just straight across my nose. Um, the last 2 times I moved house, I threw so much shit away. Helps a lot to make it easier to move to a new place. Yeah, I mean, we lived in, like, a relatively small apartment, so we didn't have, like, a crazy amount of stuff, but it's just, like, deciding what do you actually want to bring and what don't you want to bring, because it's our first proper home that we've moved into, so we were like, well, me personally, I didn't mind bringing all the clutter, but my partner, she she didn't want to, and for good reason, right? You don't wanna, like, move into this fresh house and just bring a whole bunch of junk. Me, I was like, "We'll just stick it in the garage," you know? Like, just put it in the garage, close the door, you don't have to look at it, it's fine. No, didn't wasn't a fan of that, so, uh hey, man, where can I check the new Windwalker updates? Oh, you found it? I was gonna go through that anyway, um, so don't worry too much about that. I also made a video on it, um, yesterday where I just kinda give my thoughts on everything. Give it 2 years, you'll still have that one box you still haven't unpacked since you last moved. That's true. Um, we've had so many incidents. We because I was thinking now you've brought back a memory because we had these boxes of stuff in the back that we weren't using, or like we hadn't unpacked basically. And my mum, she gave us a dryer, like a tumble dryer, because we were basically having to dry our clothes with radiators. Doesn't work too well, and we were like, "Oh, thank you. This is a blessing. Big up, mum." And it's a condenser dryer, right? Condenser dryer. So it's one of the ones that collects water in the top left. So we got all our washing, put it in, and let it spin for like an hour or two, and we were like super hyped about it. And then I opened the condenser and there was no water in it, and the clothes were dry, and I was like, my small brain was like, damn, this condenser is so good that it doesn't even like collect that much water, but the clothes are dry. That's really cool. So then we put another load in, and we let it go overnight. And then the next morning, the next morning, my partner walked in and she like saw these two boxes and they were completely drenched in water. Look underneath the dryer. Yeah, so it turns out the condenser doesn't just collect a little bit amount of water. There was just a hole in the bottom, so the entire floor was just soaked. But luckily, the boxes collected that water. So in the end, we managed to actually like tidy up a bit in the sense that we hadn't unpacked those boxes. Well, that forced us to get rid of the boxes and unpack. So yeah, so yeah. Check your tumble dryers, and yes, if they are a condenser tumble dryer, they do collect water. Don't just think that magically the water disappears. It doesn't. It's on your floor. Surprise, real fun. So yeah, lots of things like that that just things just go wrong. Um, do any new talents from the changes for Shadopan? Yeah, yeah. So this post that I've got at the moment is basically the changes that were made to Shadow or Windwalker as a whole, right? But what actually got implemented, because Blizzard love to do this little thing where they release blue posts and they have it all nicely written out what they're going to change and what they're going to do, and then you get to in game and they've done different things, and then they don't update the patch notes. So that's always nice. That's always cool. So in terms of the all damage decreased by 10%, that is essentially that did go through. The only difference is that they didn't implement it for pets. And by pets, I just mean Zuin, right? Not a massive, I'm not even going to call it a buff because Zuin doesn't do that much damage anyway because he got nerfed. Sad. Um, so unfortunately, the 10% damage decrease has gone through. Won't make a difference to Shadowpan. Maybe a slight slither of less damage loss on Conduit, but Conduit was already fucked. The big one, well, there are two big ones. The big one's kind of Rising Sun crit damage decreased by 20%, and there was a lot of like talk in the theory crafters of how they were going to implement this. And they implemented it in the way that they really didn't want it to implement. And it's the way that Rising Sun kick's damage is decreased by 20%, but it also decreases the damage of Rushing Wind Kick and Glory of Dawn. There was the hope that it was just going to be Rising Sun Kick, right? It was just going to be that one spell. But it's been implemented, so now it's reduced Rushing Wind Kick and Glory of Dawn on top of the further Glory of Dawn nerfs. Cool, right? Yeah. So an even bigger nerf to Rising Sun Kick than was initially expected. So that's nice. And then this body in the middle here, this is all this all went through how it was expected. It's not good. It's all just like pretty rough. And then the one versus many is where they said that they increased Fist of Fury for Shadopan by 60%, and then they implemented it as 50. So okay, didn't say anything about it. Just 10% less Fist of Fury damage for Shadopan. So that's kind of cool, right? So overall, the patch notes were worse than first anticipated. Not like massively worse, but it means that Rising Sun Kick came off worse, which means both hero talents suffer more. And then Shadopan doesn't do as much Fist of Fury damage. It still does a lot of Fist of Fury damage, but not as like 10% less than was initially expected, right? Which is also not good. Um, I'll put a link in there for you, John. Give me a sec. So yeah, overall, I don't know. I've been hitting some dummies for a bit. Like hitting the 5 target cleave dummies, Shadopan feels really good in AoE. As was expected, right? It's got a massive buff. Like even though the Fist of Fury buff wasn't as big as first anticipated, it's pretty big, right? You've got an increase of 40% on Fist of Fury on top of the extra 50%, well, 30% increase that we got from one versus many. So Shadowpan's like really, really strong in AoE now, but both of them kind of suck in single target. It's kind of like I've been hitting these single target dummies, and usually I get in like the mid 30,000s, like once damage drops off after opener. I'm dropping into the 20s on Conduit. It feels horrendous. Let me see if I can find this link. Yeah, I have it set up so you can't send links in here for kind of obvious reasons, I suppose. The last thing I want is someone to be posting spam. Or like links to, you know, dodgy websites and stuff. I'll just post it in both. So yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a little bit rough. I feel like single targets come off a lot worse, right? When you look at Conduit, it was roughly like a 13.5% nerf for Conduit, and Conduit was the stronger of the two in single target, and you can really feel it, especially on like target dummies, right? I haven't obviously done any raid bosses yet with it, and I feel like raid bosses would be rough to test because they all take like a minute each, so it's hard to tell like an extended period of combat. But the burst isn't as strong anymore, like your opener isn't as strong, and then the fall off damage, it's just, it feels so rough. Because previously, like, the two hero specs kind of work where Conduit is the burst one, and then it gets carried by its burst, and then outside of its burst windows, like, that damage kind of, like, goes down, but then it gets carried back up. But now it feels like it doesn't start very high, it goes down, and then you get to the next burst window, and then it doesn't go back up very much, and it just goes down again, and it feels really rough. Whereas Shadopan's always been, like, the more consistent one, so it feels okay in single target, but I mean, I don't like either of them in single target at the moment, so, to be honest. But in AoE, like, AoE is kind of where we shine right now. It's like the only kind of saving grace to everything. It's that I feel like we do a lot of damage on, like, sustained AoE, and that's because of Shadopan, and I'll show you in a sec. Thank you for all the follows and subscriptions since I come online. Appreciate it. Could I add a short resource management section to a guide picking up Windwalker's rogue main, and I'm sure how to not overcap should interfere with priority if done correctly, how to handle. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to approach a guide for Midnight at the moment. I was thinking maybe like, rather than like one long video, maybe just like smaller ones that are more concise, because I think like the issue of the long video is it has everything in it, but it can be quite grueling to get through and quite a lot of information all at once. So it might make more sense to do like a video on, you know, this is the sort of like gear and builds that you want to be going for Midnight, and then another video on these are like, this is like the rotation that you want to be, or like one just for Shadopan, right? This is how you want to play Shadopan, kind of like that. What, maybe this is how you want to do Conduit. I think maybe that might be better. I haven't decided yet. I haven't even started making a video. Don't worry, we're not in Midnight yet, right? Right. Feel like Rising Sun Kick was proccing like crazy. I feel like, right, so they changed they changed Rushing Wind Kick to now proc every like 60% chance. Holy shit, words. They changed Rushing Wind Kick to proc at like 60% now. I swear to God, it doesn't feel like it. Like, you'd think that it would proc more than 40%. Oh, makes sense, right? 20% difference. I refuse to believe it. If like I've had back-to-back blackout kicks, the numbers don't add up. I don't believe it, but I guess it should be doing it now. But yeah, let me look at some Shadopan AoE on this dummy. Another thing that needs to be kind of not concerned about, but thought about in M+ right now, and potentially at the start of Midnight, is how much damage we do initially as Shadopan. Because only last week I did that dungeon, and I was like talking about how you need to be careful with Zenith, right? Zenith does a lot of burst damage, and with that burst damage, you have the threat of taking aggro. Now, they reduce the threat it generates, and do shit. It's still like, if you go into a pull, and you just press Zenith, you will take all the aggro, you get one shot. But now, on top of that, you want to be getting Fist of Fury out as fast as possible, right? Because it's a heavy hitter, and because they buffed it. So now, if like you're trying to get an opening out, and use Zenith into Fist of Fury, well, I'll show you. You can do upwards of 300,000 damage within like 2 seconds. So like straight up Tiger Palm, Zenith, Fist of Fury, and oh, that didn't show it quite well. That was like essentially pretty much 300,000 damage, like straight off within like 2 seconds. And the issue of that is you're going to instantly pull. There's nothing your tank can do in the slightest to stop that happening. So I think right now you're going to have to be quite careful with how you open on a pack, basically. You can't just like go straight into it. I think we'll have to do a bit of build up. I almost think like you kind of want to play it like almost like a single target rotation initially, like just for like 3 or 4 seconds, like Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, just to build up some chi anyway, and let your tank get aggro. Because I promise you, if you send out Tiger Palm, Zenith, Fist of Fury, you're dead. You are not surviving that. So it's, and it's a little bit like frustrating, I suppose, because there's nothing worse than having to hold your cooldowns to not get one shot, but the amount of like initial burst that you do straight off the bat, like with one Fist of Fury, I've already done like 500,000 damage, right? Zenith on top of that, 200,000. So, you know, just those two combined, that's like what, 700,000 damage, like within a period of 3-4 seconds. It's just too much. You're never not going to generate threat. Does playstyle of Windwalker feel good? How will they perform in raids and dells, you think? So, the playstyle, I think... So, there's a difference between how I feel like how strong it is and the actual playstyle of it. In terms of strength at the moment, I think it's relatively weak. If you asked me last week, I'd say it was decent, right? I thought our single target was pretty good with Conduit. And our AoE was mid. But our AoE, Mythic Plus is always kind of mid. Well, it's kind of gone the other way around now, where single target, I feel, is like pretty bad. But then AoE, I think, is semi-decent, but it's not, like, amazing. Like, it could be a lot stronger, and I feel like we're kind of locked into Shadopan right now as well. So, in terms of, like, strength, I don't think we're very strong, but that can be changed with tuning, right? So there's always tuning that can happen. You could, like, Blizzard could just be like, you know, that 10% nerf, we're sorry, forgive us, here, have 10% back. And we'll be like, thanks. But playstyle is completely different, right? Playstyle of a spec or hero talents at this point are kind of locked in because of they've done their alpha, they've done their beta, they're kind of happy with your talents and stuff like that. They're not really, I mean, I don't expect them to change things like that. So, in the sense of them buffing Fist of Fury and nerfing Rising Sun Kick, I like that playstyle-wise. And the reason I like that playstyle-wise is because we had a relatively degenerate sort of like builds that were being made at the moment where you went Fist of Fury-less, which was essentially where, as you can probably tell, it was stronger to not press Fist of Fury all the time when it was off cooldown, and instead better to just send out Rising Sun Kicks and Blackout Kicks and then Fist of Fury at very particular times. There was, with Shadopan specifically, you were cancelling your Fist of Fury with Rising Sun Kick, because all you cared about with Fist of Fury was to get the Flurry Strike charges, and then you Rising Sun Kicked, and then that was that. And I think that was kind of a bad playstyle, because it makes no sense, especially with how, like, Fist of Fury works with our, you know, Apex talents, right? Like the rank 3 of it, you have an equal chance equal to your crit strike to increase the damage of your Fist of Fury by 50% each time. Well, the idea was that if it was going how it was, you probably wouldn't even take this, and you'd end up just basically sacking off Fist of Fury, cancelling it as soon as possible, and then just Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. And the rotation would feel, like, really poor. Like, you'd essentially just be like, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, and it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ. So, I think it's healthy that they've made Fist of Fury stronger again, because it should be strong. It is fundamentally the cornerstone of your rotation, right? And it has been for... I mean, most of the war within, it doesn't make any sense for it to be so weak, to the point where people just dropped it. So in terms of, like, how damage ranking goes, it's, in single target, Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury kind of vie for the top spot, and then everything else is just miles underneath. And I think that's okay. I mean... I kind of preferred it when damage was a little bit more balanced, but I think it's fine if those two abilities are kind of at the top. And then I feel like Rushing Wind Kick, initially, like, in Alpha, I wasn't a big fan of Rushing Wind Kick. I thought, like, is this actually going to be good? It's kind of like cap damage, right? So, like, it'll hit, it's straight cap damage. Let's see if I can bring it up. So it's split damage, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. So all damage it does is evenly spread amongst enemies, and it stacks 5 times up to 30%, like increased damage. So whether you're fighting 5 targets or 500 targets, it'll do the same damage no matter what, just evenly spread. And on paper, that sounded kind of bad, just in terms of like the damage that it put out. But it actually feels really good to play with, and I think it's because of some of the changes they made, especially coming into this week, right? So it doesn't cost any chi. Already, that's cool, because it's basically damage for free, in the sense, if you're like valuing how much damage each chi ability does, well, if it costs no chi, that's free damage. We like that, because it means that we're not expending our resources that we put into Rising Sun Kick or Fist of Fury. As well as that, it has no internal cooldown anymore, which is really useful with this playstyle that we're going with at the moment, where a lot of the time you're trying to, like, you're playing around blackout kicks to reduce the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick. As well as that, it's looking like we're taking Memory of the Monastery. So the idea at the moment is to get as many Fist of Furies out as possible, right? That's #1 goal. But then you want to reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury with Rising Sun Kick, right? Through Zuin's Battle Gear. But on top of that, because you're spending so many resources into getting Rising Sun Kick out to allow yourself to do more Fist of Fury, it makes sense to then basically empower Blackout Kick. Because by empowering Blackout Kick with the Blackout Kick effect, you give yourself that chance to then get the Rising Sun Kick, Rising Wind Kick, Russian Wind Kick? Jesus. Windwalker ability names, dudes. So yeah, basically it's a big playstyle of like Rising Sun Kicks, Blackout Kicks, Fist of Fury, so then getting that extra free chi in there with Rushing Wind Kick. And I'm pretty sure Rushing Wind Kick also reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury. Like I'm 98% positive it does. And at the cost of no chi, that's really good, right? So it is a really fun playstyle. But I don't think the damage is there at the moment, and that's the issue. And that's just Shadopan, right? With Conduit, Conduit's just always fun. Like, there's nothing not fun about Conduit. It's basically the same as it was in the War Within. They haven't nerfed... Well, they haven't, like, really changed anything. I think the biggest change is the loss of Slicing Winds. And I think that's good, you know? Like, in terms of playstyle for Conduit, a lot of people didn't like Slicing Winds. And I think... Well, I'll tell you why I didn't like Slicing Winds. I actually enjoyed Slicing Winds as an ability. I didn't like that it worked with your Heart of the Jade Serpent. So in the War Within, basically you had triggers for Heart of the Jade Serpent, right? And in Season 3, they made it so Slicing Winds was a trigger. And with Windwalker, Monk, and Conduit, you always want to be in Heart of the Jade Serpent windows. It gives you massive haste, your cooldowns are reduced, it's a really good thing. But it meant that you had to use Slicing Winds at very specific times. And that can be very awkward in raid encounters where you don't want to be moving your character, even in the slightest amount. My biggest example of this is like Nexus King, right? When he's got his like beams flying across the sky and you're like, oh shit, don't get hit by that, otherwise my raid leader's going to scream. But I've got to press Slicing Winds at very specific times after I pressed Strike of the Windlord so that I can get this double Heart of the Jade Serpent stacked up so I can do massive damage. And then you run into these situations where it would overlap with the beams and you had a choice of like basically screwing, because if you desync them, you kind of screwed yourself up for like a massive period of time and you lost a lot of damage. And that's why I didn't like Slicing Winds, because it felt like I was forced to press it at a certain time. In Season 2, I really liked Slicing Winds. There was no real force of when you had to press it. You could press it whenever, and it did really good damage. So, the thing now is they changed it, so Heart of the Jade Serpent doesn't actually interact with Slicing Winds at all. Let me get a Conduit build up. Instead, they changed it to Zenith. So Zenith now interacts with Heart of the Jade Serpent. When you pop Zenith, you get 3 seconds, is it? 4 seconds of Heart of the Jade Serpent. And that's a good change, because Zenith is your new Storm, Earth, and Fire, right? It's your big button that you press when you want to do a lot of damage. So it makes a lot more sense. But then they gutted Slicing Winds? Like they gutted this ability. To the point now that you just don't run it in any content. It does no damage. So, like in the War Within, they added this ability, and they, like, really wanted you to play it. They, like, nerfed quite a few other things, and made this particularly strong, so that you ran it in almost all content, Conduit or Shadopan. And I think the forcefulness of it was what made people not like it. But now they've nuked it. The big one was that we had Hurricane's Vault, which made it cost chi. Slicing Winds didn't cost chi, and as we spoke about like earlier, having an ability that does damage that doesn't cost chi is really good. Like, because then you're not losing resources for Rising Sun, Kick, Fist of Fury. So, big positives there. But now you were making it cost 2 chi, so that's like a big ask, right? But it did 100% more damage, and Hurricane's Vault was really cool, because it was like that balance of, can I really waste 2 chi on this ability that does 100% damage? Fuck yes I can, because that thing slapped. And then they nerfed it to 40%, and it was just like, what, why? Like, so they gutted it that way, and then they added Airborne Rhythm, and instead of it costing chi, it actually gave you chi. And this was another cool interaction that it had, where you could actually use Slicing Winds to deal damage, but then also give you chi to allow you to use chi for damage for other abilities. And it was like, that's really cool. So I have the choice of making it stronger at the cost of chi, or making it just give me more chi. That was cool. These were cool talents. Then they nerfed that to 1 chi, then they gutted the fucking talent, and it's just like, in a way, it's almost like, why even create these talent nodes and create these if you're just going to basically destroy them before they go live? So now no one runs Slicing Winds because it's just not strong in any content. You'd think it would be decent in AoE. It's not. It does, like, absolutely no damage. It's similar to Spinning Crane Kick, right? Spinning Crane Kick, the fundamental Windwalker AoE damage. Do we press it in AoE? No. No, we don't press it in AoE anymore because it's not strong enough. It's more value to press Blackout Kick to reduce the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick, to reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury, than it is to just Spinning Crane Kick, you know? So, there's a lot fundamentally wrong at the moment, but I still think the playstyle's fun. In a way. Fist of Fury is wonderful in PvP at the moment. It gives us parry against melee and a slowing effect. I don't really PvP myself, but I'm sure like the damage buffs have been pretty positive there. So Shadopan's still good. Shadopan is decent. In single target, it's about where it was, which realistically is not very strong, right? Shadopan in single target wasn't the stronger of the 2 hero talents. But now they've nerfed Conduit significantly in single target, it almost feels like Shadopan might probably be better. And when I say it's better, that doesn't mean it's good. It means in single target, they are both shit, right? They're both terrible. I feel like I can feel the damage loss on a target dummy, right? Like previously with like Conduit and Shadopan, I'd be sitting around the 30,000 damage, like mid 30s, high 30s. Now with Conduit, I drop into the 20,000s, and it just feels awful. And with Shadopan, it just teeters on 30,000, and I feel like, oh my god, please don't drop into 20, don't do this to me. So, playstyles are good, but like the damage in single target is rough, but that can be fixed with tuning, right? And that's what I say, like, so although like it feels bad at the moment, they can still tune it, so it's not like the end of the world. But my biggest concern with this, and I think I talked about it a little bit in the video, is that Conduit and the Celestials is harder than Shadopan. I think like you could have a really easy argument for saying that this hero talent is more difficult to play perfectly. It's got a lot more things to track than Shadopan. Like there's a lot more you have to like actually actively think about, make sure you're doing correctly, and if you mess up on Conduit, it's a lot more, like the repercussions are a lot higher than if you mess up with Shadopan, because they've kind of like fixed things like Flurry Strikes. They made it so Flurry Strikes activate with Fist of Fury. You're no longer having to do this ridiculous Tiger Palm stuff. Like it's a very simple rotation. Whereas Conduit, you've got to like know when you've got your Heart of the Jade Serpent. You've got to know if you need to pop it now or you need to wait a few seconds to allow yourself to have Fist of Fury back up. Stuff like that. There's a lot of things you have to track as well. Why is the strong or the hardest to play hero talent worse? You know what I mean? In the sense of like, why should people want to learn this difficult hero talent when you could just turn brain off, pop Shadopan, close eyes, and do better? You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations, and it's very the war within Season 3-esque, where it was kind of a similar situation where Conduit was harder to play. Shadopan was a bit more difficult than it is now, for sure. But Conduit couldn't really compete with Shadopan in a lot of like bosses. and a lot of like AoE situations. And it was just kind of like, well, I'd rather just play Shadopan. Why wouldn't I? It's a little bit easier. But now it's like dramatically easier, and they made it way stronger in AoE. Like the difference in AoE is astonishing, and in single target they feel like they're roughly on the par with each other. But why would I play the harder one? Why would I play the one where if I mess up, it's detrimental when I can play Shadopan, and where if you mess up, you probably don't even notice, you know? So I think that's the big issue between them at the moment. And it's a shame because I love Conduit. I think Conduit's really fun to play, but obviously I'm going to play what's stronger in any given situation, right? And it can be undone with tuning, but I think it's really weird that they nerfed it so heavily because I don't think it was that strong. Yeah. Because it's fun. I mean, yeah, you can play things for fun, but if I I don't know if my raid leader's gonna like, hey, Ben, do you mind if I play Conduit on the spot? Oh, dropped my phone. Good job. I'll be like, hey, Ben, can I play Conduit on this boss? It's like, you know, it's like 13% weaker, but it's fun. And the risk of me like messing up is a lot higher and doing less damage, but I really enjoy it. So, do you mind? I don't know if that would go down too well. Can you even mess up by playing Shadopan? You kind of can. If you're not like... You kind of can, but it's a lot easier to learn, I think, is the best way of putting it, right? Because like, things have changed a bit now where you're Rising Sun kicking a lot more in AoE, which might feel unnatural, and you're Spinning Crane kicking a lot less. But that's easy to learn, right? Like, you do a few dungeons, and you pick that up pretty quickly, and now you're playing Shadopan pretty well, whereas Conduit, you need to be kind of on it at all times. You need to know if do I need to put my cooldowns here? Because your cooldown windows are longer than Shadopan, right? Shadopan play in 1 minute. You need to know like if I can squeeze in an extra Heart of the Jade Serpent window here before I go into my cooldowns again, or if it's too risky and it will delay my cooldowns. And you need to prep yourself for Heart of the Jade Serpent. Do I have enough chi to get the abilities that I want off during it? Because if you send out a Heart of the Jade Serpent and then you don't have enough chi for Fist of Fury, yeah, you know, your Heart of the Jade Serpent's kind of wasted. Whereas Shadopan, there's no real risk to it. Very glad you're back. Do you only crane with Chi-G at all times? Essentially, yeah, that's the idea at the moment. I think the only other time that you could Chi-G... Well, not Chi-G, Spinning Crane Kick is maybe during Zenith, if you're running Obsidian Spiral. But even then, with this new, like, kind of build that we're running... We're running oh, this is the wrong one. We're running Memories of the Monastery. And the thing with Memories of the Monastery is that it makes it so that Tiger Palm has a chance to give you the Blackout Kick effect, which is the one that, you know, gives you Rushing Wind Kick. And it also, you know, restores a chi. Pretty good, we like that. So it almost feels like, and even in AoE, it's better to take the risk on a Tiger Palm to give you the chance of getting the proc for a Blackout Kick, because you want to be pressing Blackout Kick a lot in AoE, because it reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick, which are your main damage dealers. So, like, if you asked me last week, I'd say in Zenith, Spinning Crane Kick, Blackout Kick, Spinning Crane Kick, Blackout Kick, whilst you're waiting for Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury. But this week, it feels almost like... It feels better now, because Fist of Fury is so strong in relation to everything else. It just feels better to potentially even Tiger Palm instead, to give you that chance, just a chance, of getting that proc on Blackout Kick, to then give you a further chance of getting Rushing Wind Kick and reducing the cooldown of Fist of Fury, so you can get Fist of Fury out faster. So, you know, so it's a weird one. It is a weird one, because it feels like I'm not meant to use my AoE ability in AoE anymore. Why? If I wanted RNG, I'd play Shaman. Guardians of the Rift. Guardians of the Rift? Holy shit, RuneScape brained. No, I'm trying to say it's Glory of the Dawn nerf. Yeah, so Glory of the Dawn nerf kind of sucks as well, because we're going into a Rising Sun Kick build for everything now, regardless. You're taking this no matter what, so this getting nerfed just kind of sucks. Because at the end of the day, its biggest value is the fact that it restores a chi, right? Like, we we're pressing Rising Sun Kick so much, being given a chi back is really good. So you're not really going to drop this. So them just nuking the damage of it just kind of sucks on top of everything else, but well, it is what it is. Just did a 14 Floodgate, 250k opener. How did you not get one shot? Did you wait a few seconds? Yeah, that's what I mean with Shadopan. Like, the Shadopan burst damage when you go straight into Zenith feels really good, and Shadopan feels really good in AoE. That's the highlight of this patch, right? Or the changes they made, is that Shadopan actually feels nice in AoE now. It's by no means the strongest spec in the game, but it's definitely miles stronger than Conduit. And that's why I said, like, basically, you can't really play Conduit in... Can't really play Conduit anymore. I mean, you can, if you just want to have fun. If you want to do damage, Conduit is not in a good spot. A raid leader. What's he doing there? What bothers me is I went over 100% mastery last patch, now needing to completely restart to haste and crit, which were the last two stats I had last time, so I'm not even bothering to change stuff till midnight. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing how I am, right? I mean, I think that's a fair thing to do. There's no point, like, changing all your gear and trying to gear up for pre-patch. It's just pre-patch. Yeah, we are still going to want, like, a degree of mastery, but the benefit to mastery is that that it scales so well. So although, like, crit and haste are going to be, like, our best secondary stats, you can see just with 384 mastery, which, you know, isn't actually that much. That's, like, 100 more crit than I have at the moment, 100 more haste, 100 more burst. It's already at 92%. So basically, what's going to end up happening is you'll hit the sweet spot of mastery, and then you'll go straight into crit and haste. So we're still going to have a good amount of mastery percentage-wise, but it's going to be at a low figure. So I think that's fine. So it's not like have like 10% mastery. You don't want that, but it will scale really quickly to a higher percentage of mastery, and then you just go into crit and haste. But the Sims will work it out pretty quickly. Alright. So I thought today I'd do a bit of a yap. I think I've done that. A little bit of a yap, prop to speech. And then I think I'll just do some, like, kind of chill M+. I'm not pushing or anything. Jesus Christ, I'm not pushing. But more to just kind of, like, look at the two hero talents in, like, a Mythic Plus environment, see where their strengths are, see how they actually feel in a dungeon. Something like 15s, 14s, you know, I'm not here for score. I'm not here to wipe my dungeons. I just kind of want to, like, showcase how it feels at the moment. Oh, you know what? Actually, the most criminal change that they made, and it's not anything to do with tuning or anything, it's the fact that you can no longer transmog two-hander weapons into one-hander weapons. Why? I love the monk legendary weapons. I can't wear them, so now I just have a stick. I just have a bamboo stick. Like, I used to always transmog into the is it bad that I don't remember their name? But I used to always transmog into that, and now you can't. So, but on the plus side, you're probably going to have two one-handers next tier, because one-handers tend to just be stronger at the start of an expansion, just because of weapon enchants. They're usually, like, at their peak of strength at the start of an expansion. So you get more value from having two weapons than one. Almost, not exclusively for that reason, but that adds a lot to it. So I'll be able to put them back on again. But for now, we use the bamboo stick. Is my UI on Discord? Yeah, kind of. I'm going to make a kind of video on my UI. I'm not sure when it will come out. Just going through stuff. But yes, it is kind of on my Discord. Let me... So I'm on my Discord right now. This is just where it is. And then I've tried to, like... Where is it? I've tried to make it pretty chill in here. Kind of like showcasing everything with pictures of what everything is. I have moved stuff around, so it's why I probably will end up making a video. But I've got links to everything that I use at the moment. The funniest part was we removed weak auras, and we got more add-ons. I've never had more add-ons in my time playing WoW than I do right now. Like, we removed weak auras because we didn't want that, And then we've just replaced everything with like 20 different add-ons to do the jobs that the WeakAuras did. Like, okay, sure, why not? You know what I mean? It just feels so silly in a way. But I don't use too many. Like 6 or 7 basically are the add-ons I use, and I've got my profiles here. But I will have to update this eventually because, as you like, straight off the bat, my GCD history is down here, but I've moved it to underneath, stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of how I will do a sort of UI video at the moment. But I just think it's so funny how I've basically been able to recreate the UI that I had with WeakAuras, just with like 4 or 5 different add-ons, and it is essentially the same, right? It's just like, okay, sure, Blizzard, why not? I went from 20 years of shadowed unit frames in Quartz to having to use UUF and tweak it as much as I can. Yeah, I'm using UUF at the moment. Because what I like, honestly, the main reason I'm using UUF is for the cast bar. Like, it sounds kind of crazy, but I hate the baseline cast bar in Warcraft. Like, you know, the curved one. It kind of looks horrible, to me anyway. And I couldn't find any add-on that gave me a cast bar. And like, I wanted the Luxlos cast bar because I love that thing. It was just rectangular, perfect shape. You know, 4 sides. Oh, just sweet. And I couldn't, for the life of me, work out how to create a cast bar that was better, except for UUF, where it comes with its own cast bars underneath, and then I just moved the cast bar over, resized it, and now it fits there. So basically, it's just things like that, just to recreate my old UI, because I think UI for players, like, everyone's got their own UI and how they play the game, and then, like, to be basically told, you're gonna have to start from scratch, buddy. And like, when I went onto the beta initially for a bit of raid testing, it felt so weird to not have like a UI that you're comfortable with or use. It's a silly thing, right? Like, being so like happy, like comfortable with your UI and things you like. But when you get given a new one or start from scratch, it feels like really like distorting because you know where like your abilities are placed, where you need to be looking and stuff like that. So I went out of my way to basically recreate this. A lot of help came from Luxlos himself. He made a video on how to kind of recreate it. So I basically watched that and fiddled around and then added some things that I liked. But yeah, I will make a video on that. Yeah, let's switch screens. Okay, okay, I need to change the size of that text. That's okay. We'll make that smaller. I think that's still too big. Is that too big? No, I think that's fine. I'm still messing around with like the stream setup and stuff still because I haven't streamed in 3 months. And I'm trying to like integrate everything with this camera now. I think that's fine. I'm making sure everything still works. It's surprising actually. I thought I'd open up OBS and it would just basically I'd forget everything, but it's not too bad. What a stat prior is at the moment? Guide says haste, but I feel like I do more damage with high mastery. So haste and crit are like gonna be like the best in midnight, but it doesn't mean that you want low mastery. The thing with mastery is that they changed the coefficient, which is a fancy word of saying they changed the scaling of how the raw number affects your percentage, right? And in WoW, I think it's once you get to 30%, or you go over 30% in a secondary stat, every time then you go into the next bracket, you lose a certain amount, like a chunk on top of that, of like how much damage you do. I don't know how to really explain it very well, but basically, the more of a stat you have, the less of it you actually have. So although I'm at 90% mastery right now, I'm not doing 92% more damage with my mastery. There's a big chunk of that that is not real or gets diminishing returns. So although crit and haste are the like best ones at the moment, you are still going to want mastery because it scales so well with the coefficient of how it scales, I guess. Does that make sense? Probably not. But it scales so well that even with just 384, which isn't going to be a lot in Midnight, right? 384 is a relatively large amount now, but I'm only 169 item level, right? We're going to go up to like 200 and whatever. So keeping it around this part is probably what's going to end up happening, right? You keep it around the 90 to 100%, but you haven't actually spent a lot of like actual resources into getting it to that point, and then you start funneling the rest into crit and haste. The benefit of haste is always good at the start of an expansion. It increases energy regeneration, and casting spells. So Fist of Fury comes out faster. You have more energy to give yourself more chi. Haste is always good. And then we're moving a little bit more into Chris at the moment, just because it kind of like works kind of nicely with Tiger Eye Brew. And Crit's just decent in general. Crit was pretty good in the War Within at the end, to be honest, as well. Just be grateful we're not verse Crit anymore. That was a horrible time. You don't want to be there. True stat value shows that pretty good. Oh, I don't think I have that add-on. I think it kind of makes sense. Basically, you get big diminishing returns the higher a stat you have. So it gets to a point almost where it's like, I have so much in a stat, like 100%. Going any higher than this is actually like the amount of I'm getting per each 10 afterwards is pretty much halved, right? I think it is on paper. So instead of like, so when I go from 100 to 110, I'm actually only gaining an extra 5%. But yeah, not not very interesting stuff. But so basically, what I'm trying to say is, you will still want high percentage of mastery, but that's going to be really easy to achieve. You're not going to have to funnel all your gear into mastery. It'll take like a little bit of the gear, and then you'll be at a nice point that the Sims are like, we like that. Are we still running Shadopan or swapping to Conduit with the buffs to that? In Mythic Plus, I'd definitely recommend switching to Shadopan. I think that Conduit has just been gutted in that department, and Shadopan got a massive buff. So the scales of the two are very different. Shadopan just is going to be stronger in Mythic Plus. In the raid, though, and I saw someone say this earlier, and I think they raised a good point. Because the boss fights are so short, let's say you're doing a boss and it only takes a minute or a minute and a half, right? Conduit's still pretty strong in its initial burst window, although it got a 13% like decrease in damage, right? It's still really strong in its initial burst window on pull. So if your boss fight doesn't take much longer than on pull, like we're talking maybe a minute more, maybe you get one more set of cooldowns, it actually might still be okay to go Conduit. But let's say we go into midnight, right? And everything stays how it is now. Like nothing changes. Blizzard are like, Windwalker's in a good spot. We like this. Keep it how it is. Yeah, you're not playing Conduit in raid. You're just not. So I think at the moment, like, mess about. I'm gonna, like, when I do some raiding on, I think Sundays when I raid, I'm gonna see how Shadopan feels on an actual short raid boss. But in my mind, I think Conduit might still just have the edge, even though it was nerfed so significantly, just in that high burst, really short period of time. But if it starts getting to like 2 minutes of combat, 3 minutes, I think Conduit will have just fallen off too far to recuperate by that point. But if we're in a midnight raid right now, we've just entered. We've just entered the Dream Rift, and we're fighting Chimeris, the Undreamt God. You'll be running Shadopan if everything stays the same, but it won't stay the same. It's only going to get worse. No, I'm joking. But it could. You never know. Are the buffs noticeable? In AoE, they're extremely noticeable for Shadopan. The best way I can describe it is I went from doing about 150k initial burst as Shadopan to now being between 250, 300,000. Obviously, it falls off, but like that's a great picture of like how big a difference it is just from like your initial like on pull damage. How do I think Shadopan's going to hold up in raid now? Fine. I guess it is hard to say until I test it myself, but if it's the stronger of the two hero talents, it's the stronger. I think Windwalker in general is in a, I don't want to say a rough spot, but did anyone watch the Zorthoth video the other day? The one where he talks about survivability of classes. I thought that was like a really interesting, he did a lot of maths on that thing, and it was really interesting watch. He basically goes through all of the classes and talks about how good is their survivability in the game at the moment. And he ranked Windwalker Monk as the worst survivability in the game across like multiple like things like how good is their self healing or how good are their defensives? Can they survive one shot? And Death Knight being at the top, Windwalker being the worst spec. And he's right. He is right. Our survivability is actually really rough now. I think like we have two defensives, right? And then just naturally we're quite a squishy class. Like our actual like damage reduction from our talents isn't very good. So think about it this way, right? Karma and Fortifying Brew, they're decent defensives, but they're not immunities, right? So you still take damage through them. But then on top of that, once you don't have those cooldowns anymore, we have Vivify, I suppose, as like natural healing. And it does okay. Like it can crit decently. It's not the strongest self-heal in the world. Like our natural survivability is actually rather low. So I think that is a kind of worrying thing. Would I say it's more worrying than not doing damage? Can't do damage when you're dead. It's noticeable. I think the loss of diffuse magic is probably bigger than you might think. Like, because it's not just that diffuse magic could reduce magic damage, right? It's the fact that we had 3 defensives, all 1 minute 30, that you could then rotate around. And that was the biggest part, right? I'd always talk about like Fractilis was a great example. All its mechanics were really well lined up in a way that you could rotate 1, 2, 3 of your defensives for every big hit. And this increased your survivability on Fractilis immensely. If we didn't have diffuse magic, suddenly every like 2-1, you were taking a massive hit and you had nothing to defend yourself with. And this is probably going to become quite noticeable, I think, going into Midnight. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of classes lost defensives, right? But it does feel rough because our self-healing is rather low. Like, we have Vivify. And I guess if you really want to, you can use Soothing Mist or Loosen Mist. I think a lot more people end up taking this. Just as a damage reduction thing, right? Because if you channel this on yourself, it reduces damage you take. And I think like losing a defensive might actually, might be like make this a pretty decent option as a super like please save me 6% DR sort of angle. So yeah, our survivability is relatively low. Am I selling you all on Windwalker? Is it sounding good? Are we all looking at our like other characters right now? DK's looking pretty good right now. Yeah. Can't diffuse magic separate from brew now? So it is a mixed talent, but it doesn't reduce magic damage. All it does is it can transfer a current effect back to an enemy, right? So it acts as a reflect. So the two issues there are, one, you're forced to take it as an extra talent, which feels bad in itself already, right? Because that means that you'll end up like losing another talent that you use to take this instead. Not a great talent in general. 2, it means that you're forced now to use Fortifying Brew as a reflect rather than your like big 15-second reduced damage for this period of time. So let's say you get hit by an ability and it's reflectable. You have the option of reflecting with Fortifying Brew, but then maybe you reflect it and you don't really take any damage for that next period of time, or would you rather have Fortifying Brew for a period where you know you're going to take a lot of damage, right? It feels like an addition on that doesn't really make any sense. On top of that, it doesn't negate, like, it doesn't protect you from magic damage. So let's say they hit you with a magic damage ability and it's not reflectable, well then that talent does nothing. It doesn't help at all. Like, there might be some niche situations in dungeons where it is actually useful. Like, maybe there is like a really heavy hitting single target magic dot that gets put on people in your dungeon or your raid and you can reflect it, then people will take it. But overall, it's I don't know, it's just not as good as it was, right? It's still the same button, so it's not like you're adding anything defensively. It doesn't really change anything, if that makes sense, in the sense of like survivability. Remember the channeled AoE defensive thing monks used to have? Whatever happened to that? Was that oh, what was that? Was that the one that brewmasters have? The one where you go into like the monk pose and you're like, and then you protect yourself, but then you can still get moved. What was that called? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think I know the one you're talking about. Zen meditation, yes, thank you, Chalk. Zen meditation, yeah, I remember using that on a long time ago and on Taurus as like a big like backup defensive, and you just basically sit still and just start channeling. Ah, good times. Thank you for all the follows, by the way. I appreciate all the follows. All right, let's do a dungeon. Let's see Shadopan, shall we? I think I've yapped a good amount. We're all in the same boat. Windwalker's a little bit rocky at the moment. Right, so I should be combat logging now. I haven't done combat logging before. I tried to set up yesterday. I think I've kind of set it up decent enough. Basically just to try, like, because details is kind of not great anymore. I don't think it's any fault of details, but the issue is now that you can only see damage done on a singular pool, right? At the end of the dungeon, it will eventually show you all the damage done, but it's not as good as it used to be, and that's not fault details, that's just Blizzard basically reducing how much you can actually see now. So cool. Useful. I mean, I guess you can still see interrupts and stuff, but we've lost a lot of fundamental things that details was useful for, right? What did that say? Realizzato. I guess that means resilient in, I want to say Portuguese? Italian? Realizzato. It sounds Italian, actually. Oh, yeah, that sounds Italian. You gotta put the, once you do the fingers. Oh, it means relaxed. Oh. Yes, I speak. I speak Italian. Good lord, we have a face for the voice. I know, I apologize. I don't know how this happened. You can still have damage done overall on details, can you? Am I just blind? So all the options I get are damage done, DPS taken, enemy damage taken, healing, HPS overall. I don't have the option to have overall damage. If there is a way, that would be great, because I like having the triple detail box set up. Hover over the second symbol. Am I cooked? Oh, I see. Overall. Oh. Oh. Wow. Okay. Never mind. Details are saved. Oh my rod. Huge. Big play. Thank you for showing me that. I didn't know. I thought they'd literally not been able to see overall anymore. So that's kind of cool. But nonetheless, details are still janky. It is a little janky. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to play Shadopan for this one. Obviously, because Shadopan got the buff this patch, so it kind of makes sense to see how strong it feels. We're doing a Floodgate, which is a pretty good dungeon for AoE. Lots of trash packs, AoE bosses. Probably the best dungeon to showcase the power. The one thing I need to be careful for is on pull, making sure that I just don't get aggro. Very likely that I will if I just instantly Zenith Fist of Fury. So I might just delay my opener a little bit for like 5 seconds. I feel like maybe that's okay. I'm very worried about getting one shot, basically. This is the talent build. We're mostly just playing into Rising Sun Kick, right? So Rising Sun Kick AoE, Russian Wind Kick, trying to just play around Blackout Kicks is the idea, to allow ourselves to have as many Fist of Furies as possible. That's the goal. Drinking Horn cover over Spiritual Focus? Oh. No, I want Spiritual Focus. Predominantly, I prefer playing the 1 minute in dungeons, regardless. But I think it lines up a bit better with Araz Ritual Forge that I'm using, 2 minute trinket. So I'm going Spiritual Focus for this. At the moment, I think it's just kind of dealer's choice on which one you use.
3, 2, 1.
Lock in. Okay.
5.
Repeat after me. I will not get one shot. That would be embarrassing. Oh, I'm trying to lie to the net. It doesn't work. Ugh. Repeat after me. My tank will not get one shot. Bro, I just Tiger Palmed it. My bad. Turns out that Tiger Palm just steals aggro. My mistake. Ow. I need to make sure that I'm using Touch of Death a lot more as well. Because although I'm not taking the Touch of Death talent anymore, Meridian Strikes, I still want to try and Touch of Death as often as possible. Just because it scales so well at the start of, like, when you're basically stat squished, right? Start of an expansion. Okay, bad start, getting beaten by DK. That's okay, though. This feels like last season. Some things don't change. Oh, come on, get it down. Yeah, the opener was okay. I feel like it was a little bit scuffed because I wanted to start on the Shredder, but just by Tiger Palming it, I stole aggro because, like, yes, the tank didn't grab it, which is fine. I've angered everything. So as you might notice I'm not pressing Spinning Crane Kick at all. It's just not strong enough. I want to be getting Fist of Fury as often as possible. Please get off me. So the goal is basically to Rising Sun Kick when it's up, but Fist of Fury when it's up as often as possible, and then use Blackout Kick in the meantime to essentially reduce the cooldown of, or try to get Rising Sun Kick to come off the cooldown so that I can then Fist of Fury more. The name of the game is Fist of Fury, basically, with Tiger Palm weaved in there. The only time I will Spinning Crane Kick is when I get a Chi-Ji proc. Now you might be thinking, shit, that DK does a lot of damage. Don't worry. Don't worry, I got it sorted. But yeah, you can see, look at my damage overall already. Fist of Fury is the highest and it's not even close. It is just stupid. I suppose, like, following on from my previous video where I talked about, like, priority target damage, I do still think we have that. Please let me unroot myself. Like, because although it's not going to be as strong, Rising Sun Kick got nerfed, right? We're still going to do a lot of Rising Sun Kick damage just on the sole reason being that we're pressing it a lot, right? It did get nerfed, so the damage is going to be less, but you're not pressing it any less than you previously did. It feels very... Ow. It feels very unnatural to not be pressing Spinning Crane Kick in this time, though. Like, I'm basically having to, like, force myself not to. Like, I see a big pack here, and I'm like, that's a Spinning Crane Kick angle. I'm Blackout Kicking. Ew. Okay, we're catching up the DK. See, I told you. He's shot his load. He's loadless. And now we make the comeback. That might sound bad out of context. But, you know what I'm trying to say. Alright, so we've got a big pull coming up here. I need to be careful with this. Try not to get one shot. Let the tank get a little bit of aggro, I think. Tiger Palm running some kick. I'm just going to wait. I don't want to get one shot. See, I held my load there. And I still almost get one shot. Please. Please, sir. This is what I mean, right? Zenith is so powerful a cast. That even if you, like, delay it, it hits so hard with its initial impact that if your tank doesn't have aggro of a certain thing, you just get instantly targeted. So that's why I'm, like, so worried about it. Because it hits everything in an AoE, like, around you, right? When you press the ability. And although it's, like, not the strongest ability on your overall, that initial burst damage that it does just from pressing Zenith, it slaps. If anything, I think they need to reduce the threat further. I think it is just still too high. Which is crazy to say when they reduced it by 50%, right? Like, 50%. Alright, right now I'm gonna save Zenith for the bosses, and I'm just gonna unleash on them. I've got my trinket up as well. Ideally I get Fist of Fury back here. Yeah, we got a nice slight cooldown reduction there.
Welcome to the firing range.
I haven't done this dungeon since they removed weak auras. I hope I can still play the game. Does it tell me that he wants to target me still? I don't know. Oh, bomb underneath us. Everyone watch out. Oh, he did not watch out. It does. Let me try to go over here. Get this. Ooh. And then I'll wait for them to be grouped up again before I send my load. I keep forgetting that I don't have lighter than air, and I keep trying to pop lighter than air. Like, in that situation, I felt like I was going to get run over. I double jump, nothing happens. I think I might actually switch in that talent, even though it reduces my touch of death damage, just because it's so useful. Like, I didn't realize how much I use lighter than air to actual, like, safety movement until I don't have it talented anymore. I'll target the tank now, so that's fine. We have missed 3 bombs. Oh god, no! This is gonna hurt. I'm gonna karma this. That's not something you want to see. Like, I turned around to see, like, what was going on, and I see 3 bombs still up after the tank has sent his final, ascend. Not good. And usually in that situation, I'd run up to the 2 bombs, and I'd press Diffuse Magic, protecting myself from the damage, while also blowing up the bombs. I instinctively press my Diffuse Magic button. No longer exists. So I, like, panicked a little bit, but the healer had me covered. Whew. I hated Lighter Than Air at first, now I really miss it. I'm the same, Nate. I didn't use it for the entirety of Season 1, The War Within, because I didn't like it. I wasn't a massive fan. And then I started using it in Season 2, and now I just feel legless without it. Massive pull here, we got all our cooldowns. I'm just going to wait a sec, because we know what happens if I don't wait. I kind of want everything grouped up before I send. It's all grouped up, so we get a big Zenith. I'm just going to keep this Demolitionist from reloading. I am out of CC now. So hopefully someone else does it. Or not. Or not. I got so many rushing wind kicks proc there. That felt really nice. Like, they buffed it to 60% from 40. It is noticeable. I'm noticing it at the moment. But it just feels so good to get like a chi-less damaging ability that reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury as well. Like, it feels so nice. Because like at the moment, because we're at the start of like an expansion or being scaled and stuff, you do feel a little bit more like resource drought, I suppose you could call it. So just having like something that does damage that you can fit in between, doesn't break our mastery, and doesn't cost chi basically, right? It feels really nice as like a filler. Like it allows you to do like the blackout kick into rushing wind kick into blackout kick again, and you've essentially spent just 2 chi to do that, and it means a lot less focus on target armor almost. Gotta be careful here. Alright, we're sending now. Get everything lined up. Try to get a touch of death here. I have not really been using touch of death. I should be trying to use it a bit more throughout the dungeon. Then, like, for a boss like Big Mama, right? Because we're on 1 minute cooldown now for Zenith, I'm essentially gonna have Zenith up for pretty much every ad set, like more or less. Like it'll be a little bit delayed here, but not by much. So it just allows you to constantly keep up like a really sustained high burst. The one add-on I do miss is GTFO. I will say I miss GTFO. I'll go in it, don't mind me. It's the... I can kind of understand why they removed GTFO, because it basically honked at you when you're inside of something bad, and maybe that's just not what they want, that helps you combat-wise. So I do get it, but at the same time, like, having the audio cue is just so useful. Because sometimes it is hard to tell that you're stood in something bad. Like, sometimes it's super obvious, right? Sometimes if you're stood in fire, you know you're stood in fire. Sometimes when there's, like, a lot going on and the colors kind of, like, mesh into each other in an encounter, having just a onk, onk tell me that I was in something bad, really useful, but I don't know if they got it working or not. Big Mom is almost dead, so I'm not going to send Zenith here. That'd be a little bit troll. Did the sound not just play? Did it? Am I gaslighting myself? This just in. Streamer is fried in the head. I'll find out. I'll stand inside of this. I won't. Maybe. Oh my god, that hurts. Maybe I'm just cooked. I know at the very start of, not the PTR, what would you call this? Pre-patch, it didn't work. But that's when all the add-ons didn't work. So maybe I'm just basically thinking like that, and then because I have updated it a few times. Maybe I'm just fried. Who knows? In terms of, like, damage, I feel like 73,000 so far feels pretty good. I don't have, like, many pre-patch dungeons to base it off of at the moment, but... or 68, whatever you want to call it. It feels decent. Usually you're more in, like, the 40 range, I think. But, I mean, obviously we still got two single target bosses to go, so it could drop quite a bit. But it feels really good at the moment. Just in terms of like playstyle, it feels like I always have buttons to press. I'm getting a lot of procs. And Fist of Fury is doing absolutely insane damage. Like, the rushing wind kicks are really good. My Fist of Fury is like, sometimes on like a 5-second cooldown, if you get like nice back-to-back procs on Zuan's Battle Gear. Come on, let me touch your death, you stupid bomb. Hello? Touch your death? Okay. And on top of that, I always have Zenith up. Like, I always have Zenith up for everything. Like, the reduced cooldown to 1 minute feels so nice. I'll CC now. I'm going to Karma this. We are taking a little bit more damage than I'd like. And I'm just going to hold Zenith for the boss now. I could send it on these 3 ads and maybe probably get a bit more value than sending it on the boss, but I think it's fine to send Kelp Face. Kelp Face? Swamp Face? Yep. Although these things are taking so long to kill, I kind of wish that maybe I sent it a bit earlier. Left is best. Sounds good. Decent option for raid, I reckon. If you asked me last week, I'd say yes. I think Windwalker has a spot in the race to world first, even. But the nerfs to Conduit, I think, are that bad that I don't think so. In its current state, I don't think it is race to world first worthy. And this is me on the assumption that, like, Liquid love playing Windwalker. Like, the past 2 tiers showed it. I mean, Windwalker was busted in Season 2. But in Season 3, Windwalker was semi-mid, right? It wasn't, like, the best spec. But Liquid still ran it. One, because they have the world's best Windwalkers, so, you know, that kind of helps, I suppose. But it has good... The thing that really saves Windwalker at the moment is its damage profiles. And what I mean by damage profiles is when can it send out cooldowns? And this started in the war within Season 3 to be quite noticeable. But you hear me talking a lot about how, like, I really love Zenith 1 minute. Well, Windwalker can play a 1 minute spec because of the Zenith cooldown. It can also play a 2 minute spec if you really wanted it to have insane burst damage at 2 minutes with, like, a double, you know, double Zenith. It can play 1 minute 30 if you want to play Conduit, right? Like, 1 minute 30 is also a good profile for it. You can also play 1 minute 20, I think. You can play 1 minute 20 if you play the other Drinking Horn cover. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it's got a lot of options for when you want damage. And in raiding, that is key. Like, insanely valuable to have a spec that can do that. Dementius is a great example of this. If you prog Dementius and you had a lot of 2 minute specs, you'll know that those platforms were hell on earth. They were the hardest part of progress. Like, it was really difficult to successfully do those platforms. Once you got into P3, still hard, but it became a lot easier because you had all your cooldowns back up. Because the platforms were 1 minute 30 apart from each other. So having 1 minute 30 specs allowed you to send all your cooldowns, essentially, on one platform and then on the next platform, making them a lot easier and meeting the damage checks. So, and get basically the difference between, like, guilds that had a lot of those and didn't, like, was you could see it and you could feel it when you played it. So having the option of playing 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute 30, 1 minute 20, it's actually a big, like, it's a big thing. Like, it is really useful because let's say you do a boss and it has a damage amp and its damage amps at 1 minute 20 and 1 minute 40, 2 minute 40, right? Well, that's really awkward for 1 minute 30 specs because it doesn't quite line up. 2 minutes have to hold their cooldowns for an extended period of time. Well, the Windwalker that's 1 minute 20, oh shit, boy, we get both of those on cooldown. Obviously, it doesn't always line up like that. That's, like, quite an extreme, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? let's say that you need damage every single minute of a fight. Well, some specs that are on 1 minute 30 will only be able to do that. Like, they'll have to basically either choose to hold their cooldowns or send them early. And basically, they'll miss out on certain damage amps or certain periods where you need quite a lot of damage, if that kind of makes sense. So I think that's one of the really appealing things of Windwalker. But that doesn't matter if your spec doesn't do enough damage to make it good enough in the rest of the fight. Which is where I think Conduit is kind of sitting at the moment. It got really heavily nerfed in that sense. And although Shadopan didn't get massively nerfed in single target, it was not strong to begin with in single target. It was mid, like meh, it was okay. So, on top of that, with issues with survivability, it's tough. I think if we get some tuning that makes, like, increases the damage of Rising Sun a little bit more, again, that will really be helpful. Because that was the biggest nerf that I think truly affected Conduit, is Rising Sun Kick. And it affected Shadopan as well, but Shadopan got the safety buffer of Fist of Fury now does stupid damage. Yeah. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, is it going to be good for Raid? It's hard to tell at the moment. It's got some things going for it. It has the potential to be really like a good flexible spec. But at the end of the day, if your damage isn't high enough... It also depends, I suppose, like what are you trying to achieve? Are you just doing heroic raiding? Are you doing cutting edge? Are you casually doing mythic? Like, unless you're doing cutting edge, anything that I'm saying right now doesn't matter. Play whatever you want. It doesn't matter how good Windwalker is, you'll be fine. But I feel like you are trying to like do the high-end raiding where you need like really good team or group comps to make certain pushes and stuff like that, then yes. That is, if it's just like, you know, like casual mythic, casual heroic, LFR, whatever, it's fine. You can play, like, it'll be fine. But I just look at it from the perspective of how good will the spec I play do at the content I want to do, you know? I don't believe that damaged me, sir. That damaged me is fake. I'm not the bottom, right? There ain't no way. Nah, that's cap. That's cap, Your Honor. It's working! Alright, all the water's on the left side, so hopefully the tank pulls it over to the left side. That would be ideal. Otherwise, I have no idea where I'm gonna go. That was a little bit weird. I saw that all the other DPS were going towards these two pools over here, so basically someone was going to get screwed, so I thought it made sense to kind of not do that. I don't know if we'll get another water phase. I think we might get away without it. Maybe not. Alright, I have just sent out cooldown, so I am just going to run with the tank here and hope that someone else picks up the dodgy water. Ow. Yoink, I got that. Unlike everybody else. Oh. Look, I was decent with the first set, although that is the tank that's having to like run to Africa. Oh, come on, Gigazap. I've got no more mobility. Ah, yes. That dungeon, I did 4k damage. That's what I mean. Like, the damage meters are so chalked at the moment. Like, what what do you mean? Okay. Uh, it's okay, though. 4k damage? I mean, it's funny, but everyone else did 0, so who's really laughing here? I'll see if I can get that logged. I'm trying to log at the moment because it's going to be a lot better to see breakdowns and stuff. But you can see like where all our damage is coming from. So I think that's quite important. Spoiler alert, it's going to be Fist of Fury. So just give me a sec while I see if I can do this. So it should be this one. Raid.io app auto logs, which is very useful. Oh, okay, I'll have a look into that as well. Turn on Blizzard damage meter. I really don't like the look of Blizzard damage meter. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I've become so accustomed to details, but I really just don't like how it visually looks. I don't know. I just don't like the color scheme. I don't like anything about it. I don't like the shape of the bars. I'm just not really a fan of it. It's okay. It's okay. I have an alternative. We have Warcraft logs. Everything's gonna be okay. Read what I sent you earlier. Yeah, let me scroll up. Reminding you again that both your DPS meters are on current combat, not overall. Yeah, that sounds right. Oh, there it is. Oh, I'm so stupid. I promise you I did switch this to overall, though, when you told me to. Or someone told me to, and I did switch it. Is it crazy to say that it switched itself back? Is that, like, conspiracy? I'm going to say it switched itself back. That's decent, right? I think, like, see, the issue is I don't know what, like, good in a floodgate is anymore. But, shit, I beat an unholy DK, so really, is Windwalker S tier? Yes, correct. I will have a look at logs once it's done because it'll be a bit better. But like, look at this, right? Like, where does your damage come from now? It is insanity that 44% is Fist of Fury. Like, that's absurd, right? Like, nothing even comes close. You could add, well, I was gonna say you could add everything else together and it wouldn't even reach that. But if we mathematically, yes, it would because it's only 44%. You know what I mean, right? Like, it's just stupid damage. That's kind of low for Fist of Fury. What the hell? You reckon they should go back to old Dance of Chiji at least to make spinning feel good? Um, I think the only thing that will make spinning crane kick feel good is a damage increase. To be honest, like I don't think. I mean, yeah, in a way, yeah. Maybe if they obviously increase the make Chiji go back to the two. Was it like 200%? Sure, that probably will help, but I don't know. I think they're reluctant to buff spinning crane kick. I mean, they have buffed it slightly, but they're reluctant to give it anything crazy. And I think that I guess their worry is that, or the reason that they probably won't do that again, is because we use spinning crane kick in single target right on raid bosses, like, and it was one of our higher damaging abilities. Like that is just not healthy. Like it's really fun. Don't get me wrong. Like pressing a glowing button that does stupid damage when it shouldn't is always fun. But I feel like that might have been the issue with spinning crane kick. A lot of it came from the fact that it was so good in single target when really it should just be an AoE ability. So I feel like they're not going to do that. But they need to kind of make it strong enough so that it is actually a button you want to press in AoE. Otherwise, like it's silly not pressing your AoE button in AoE because it's more value to just reduce the cooldown of your other abilities with more single target catered buttons. So yeah, I think eventually they will probably get it right, but right now, no. I also don't like that Chi doesn't stack 2 times anymore. I'm like 99% sure it doesn't. And I don't know why. There's also a big bug at the moment. Zenith currently doesn't cause blackout kick to give additional CDR. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, that's good. I love Windwalker. Yeah. If you do look at the damage breakdown of this, right? So Fist of Fury is where all the damage comes from, and then it's followed by Rising Sun Kick, Flurry Strikes, right? So Flurry Strikes is just going to naturally send out whenever you cast Fist of Fury, because that's when they trigger, as well as during Zenith when you're Rising Sun Kick or Spinning Crane Kick. But predominantly, it's when you're going to be Fist of Fury and you get Flurry Strike. So these two are kind of a pair. But you can see like the second highest damage is Rising Sun Kick. So I don't like going back to like my idea of like Windwalker potentially having a new identity. It's nowhere near as like crazy it was before, but to be able to do so much Fist of Fury damage, you are still having to Rising Sun Kick a lot more in AoE than you would, which means you are doing a lot more single target damage or like priority target damage in dungeons, right? It's just not as high as it was maybe last week. But you also got to take into account that Fist of Fury, it does a lot of damage, but Fist of Fury also does more damage to the target that you're targeting, right? So, like, just baseline, it deals 22,000 to the target that I'm hitting, and then targets around it, it does, 12,000, where then it falls off beyond 5 a little bit. So, we'll like those two added together. I do still think there is a good amount of priority target damage. It's not quite what it was last week. Then overall, if we got a damage buff, it probably is more than we got last week. But in terms of like everything else, it's all just like relatively low overall, right? You can see like Zenith Stomp, it does a lot of damage, and this is without the Weapons of the Wall hero talent, where it will do 20% more damage. This is what I mean, right? Like this is just a button you press when you get Zenith, and it does 5th highest damage overall. So this is why it is so like dangerous to press it so quickly, because if you press Zenith, you're doing tons of damage instantaneously to everything around you. Your tank doesn't have aggro of maybe even just 1 or 2 mobs or not enough threat on them. They're going to pounce on you, and they're just going to delete you. So it is a bit risky. Zenith timing does need to be considered a little bit, or just get a good tank that gets threat real quick. That'd be nice. My Touch of Death kept bugging out last week, kept popping up and down again. Had to spam press it to time it right to get it off. I felt that once in this key. Touch of Death can be quite buggy at times. There's like a fair few known bugs with Touch of Death. I think the most common one that happens is where if you're in combat with like multiple ads and one of them is in Touch of Death range, and then you tab target to another ad, or target another one, then target back, you can't Touch of Death again for that entire pack or on that ad specifically. That's a really fun one. I had the one that you're talking about where it was in range and it was glowing and I was trying to press it and it was just not doing it. That's a fun one. It's always been buggy though, so nothing really changes there. Your face is far less posh than I thought it would be. That's crazy. That like, what does that mean? Oh god, is that good? Is that bad? How does Windwalker feel? The playstyle feels good. And to answer another question, is there an actual rotation priority list for Windwalker, or do you just press random buttons? No, I don't just press random buttons. I like to think of it as an objective you have at the moment. The objective is to Fist of Fury as often as possible. How do you Fist of Fury as often as possible? Well, we have talents like Zuin's Battle Gear, which reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury with Rising Sun Kick, and then we have abilities like Blackout Kick that Where is it? Blackout Kick, like, reduced the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury. There it was, sharp reflexes, couldn't find it for a second. So the objective is to Fist of Fury, get Fist of Fury on cooldown, and then reduce its cooldown as fast as possible to get more Fist of Fury out. The best way of doing that is through Rising Sun Kick, because you can get the big chunks taken off of Zun's battle gear. The second best way to do that is through Blackout Kick, which is does 1 second. But then Blackout Kick can also reset the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick, right? So then basically it's playing like this little mini game of keeping up chi with Tiger Palm, whilst at the same time making sure you get Fist of Fury out, and then using Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Rushing Wind Kick to allow yourself to Fist of Fury more. So that's essentially the objective. So I suppose in like terms of priority, it would be like Tiger Palm at the top if like you're about to overcap energy, because you don't want to overcap energy unless you're in Zenith, in which case there are exceptions, because in Zenith you can get chi back with Blackout Kick. So generally, yes, Tiger Palm would be top, just so that you don't overcap energy. Fist of Fury then next, pretty important. This can be, although to be fair, it can be interchanged with Rising Sun Kick, because it's not the... Actually, I'm going to put Rising Sun Kick before Fist of Fury. I've changed my mind, and you might think that's crazy, but the benefit of having Rising Sun Kick before Fist of Fury is that if you press Rising Sun Kick, it does damage. Great start. Then if you press Fist of Fury has a channel time, right? Certain amount of time before it like finishes. Rising Sun Kick doesn't have that long of a cooldown. It's 7.6 seconds, but you can reduce this with Blackout Kick, make it instantly come back, sometimes with Blackout Kick. That's the idea. So by doing Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury into Blackout Kick, you can then get Rising Sun Kick back again, which can then in turn help you reduce the cooldown of your Fist of Fury. Whereas if you go Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, you might not reset it, then you're basically waiting for both of their cooldowns to come back. Does that kind of make sense? So I actually think Rising Sun Kick is higher priority. I think if you have both of them up and you don't have enough chi to cast them both, then I'd Fist of Fury. Let's say like you're not in an open and you're in the middle of the gameplay, right? You're like, your chi's like low, your energy's pretty low, and you only have like enough to cast one. You can't like then Tiger Palm. You have to like basically wait a bit to get some energy regen. Then I'd Fist of Fury. But then like in an opener situation, Rising Sun Kick for sure. Then Whirling Dragon Punch, I suppose, because Whirling Dragon Punch gives you Blackout Kick effect. Then Blackout Kick effect would be next, followed by Rushing Wind Kick into just baseline Blackout Kick into Spinning Crane Kick. Should Zenith be there? Put Zenith at the top. You always want a Zenith. That's kind of like the idea. Hey, what's poppin'? Just yapping. Talking about some rotation. Is that Weapons of Order on my UI? No, well, I mean, kind of. Yeah, it's Zenith. It's basically the new Storm, Earth, and Fire, right? They renamed it to Zenith, but it is the same. It's the same symbol, right, as Weapons of Order. It's basically your big button. It's your big cooldown. I don't think they rechanged the icon. Am I missing Shadow Meld? No, I'm not a Night Elf. I am a Void Elf. So I have Spatial Rift. I'm gonna plug my headset in. My headset was flashing red. Can you still hear me? Can we still hear things? I think it was low on battery, that's why it's flashing red. I got concerned. We're on Rushing Wind Kick for M+ now, that's awesome. Yeah, it's basically just because it's so valuable to be pressing Rising Sun Kicks now that we want to basically cater for a full Rising Sun Kick build. On top of that, Slicing Winds is kind of bad at the moment, and spinning crane kick's also pretty weak, so there's not actually too much else that you can put your talent points into. Like really, overall, it makes sense just to go more into just a Rising Sun kick sort of build. What talent would you swap out to go lighter than air? Great question. And you've reminded me. I want to do that now. Probably Fatal Touch. Wait, yeah, Fatal Touch, because I can't take another one, right? Yeah, see? And I'd rather keep the increased physical damage and magic damage. Well, you have to have that to go lighter than air. So your real options are either... Well, I say real options. Your only option is to either drop Fatal Touch and then, take one Martial Instincts, or, just drop Fatal Touch on its own. And it's got to be Fatal Touch. It's the only one you can really do without giving up damage, and we're not doing that. I'm going to do that because I find myself not pressing Touch of Death anyway, because I'm stupid. That's an awful talent, but I'll take it. So the danger of Zenith aggro and how squishy Windwalker are pugging will be a big challenge. No, I just think you have to just play it a little bit smarter. It never feels good to like not instantly send your cooldowns out, but it's just being a little bit more careful when you press it. I think it just means you just build up a little bit more. It's almost like, in a way, it's better to do your like single target opener, like Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, just to like give you something to press, build up a little bit of chi before you send out Zenith, because it's just something to do, right? And it gets Rising Sun Kick on cooldown anyway. But like it shouldn't be too bad. It's just you do need to be aware of it, because it like, even in that dungeon that I just did, right? Like I pulled some packs that I thought the tank had aggro of, press Zenith, that suddenly the name plates go yellow. Uh-oh. Panic. I think they do need to decrease the threat generation of it some more. I don't think 50% is enough, which is crazy, but it's still got to get stronger, right? Like we still don't have this talent here, which increases its damage by 20%. So yeah, it is a bit scary. I don't think it'll make pugging like that much more difficult. It just means you just got to wait a little bit. Do we get anything to cover loss of diffuse magic? Yeah, we get this really cool talent that gives you a magic health shield that stacks. Yeah, real good. You don't really notice it. I guess it's there. It's nowhere near a replacement for diffuse magic, but I guess it... I mean, what's 6 times 6? 3.6? It gives you a 3.6% magic shield, which is essentially nothing, right? Like, what is that? It does stack every 3 seconds, but it's essentially nothing. You get hit by a magic ability, that entire shield's just gone. It's not going to save your life. I mean, it might in some very niche situations, but it's not very good. I'm not talented into whirling steel whilst complaining about defensives. Yeah, what should I give up? Against all odds. Yeah. Does the replacement still dispel some debuffs? It does, yeah. So you do have to attach it to Fortifying Brew, and it will still reflect some magical effects, but it doesn't make you immune from or not immune. It doesn't make you take less magic damage. So let's say you took this talent, something hit you with a magic effect that can't be like reflected, and then you press Fortifying Brew. You don't have that 60% damage magic reduction on you. It's just the standard Fortifying Brew. And that's why it's kind of a very niche talent that I don't know if you'll take for anything. Unless there's like a certain boss or something that's just, it's immensely powerful to reflect their ability. So that maybe it just helps make a fight a little bit more simple. do I feel like Windwalker got a buff or a nerf overall? I think nerf. Um, I think I would go with nerf overall. So I think it's like Shadopan got a good AoE damage buff. Um, but Conduit pretty much got gutted. And then in single target, neither of them did particularly too well. Like none of them really gained anything valuable. If anything, they're both like Conduit got destroyed and Shadowpan suffered a little bit. So in single target, pretty crazy nerf. Conduit didn't get stronger in AoE. Conduit got pretty much worse in AoE. So the only like if we go Conduit single target, Shadowpan single target, Conduit AoE, Shadowpan AoE, the only thing we got a buff in was Shadopan AoE. So that's 3 bads to 1 good. So I'd say overall, it's not great tuning. Um, yeah. I'd personally, I'd rather do more single target damage than more AoE damage. I feel like that's better to me. I mean, that's just my opinion and how I feel, but I'd rather my spec does more single target boss damage than it does AoE damage. Um, Dungeons have single target bosses. I don't mind carrying on them. My UI is missing flying serpent kick. It is. It is hidden on a button over here. I just didn't know where to put it, and you can't put it in the cooldown manager, can you? Yeah, because it shares a node with slicing winds. Yeah, that's a cool one, right? Unless I can. I can put it in utility cooldowns, but it doesn't show up because I don't know. So that's cool. So yeah, it doesn't show slicing winds. It's on a button hidden over here. I could put it on the left side, but I prefer it being down here with all my other ones. But I don't know why I can't. You can't put flying serpent kick. It's definitely got something to do with the fact that they have slicing winds as well, and they can't have both. I don't know. Fucking who knows with Blizzard. Can I share my Plater profile? I don't use a Plater anymore. I use Platinator. I think a lot of people have jumped over to this one, which is essentially just Plater 2, right? I think it has. I mean, I don't really know the differences. Maybe less settings you can change, but very simple. And simple's good. And I just use Jundy's profile. I cannot export that to you because that's a massive, that's a massive chain of text. But if you search Jundy's Platinator profile, it will you'll be able to find it. Funnily enough, it pops up on the WeakAura website. Jundy's. Still not in beta, the patch changes. Good question. I haven't really played the beta. From I want to say no, but it might be, which is a horrible answer. I'm sorry. Last time I checked, I saw a stream. I was watching Dorky last night, and I think he was saying that they hadn't updated all of the specs for beta with like the changes made today on the beta. I'm not sure if that's changed since then, but to my knowledge, it's not updated on the beta. All right, I'll be 2 secs. I'm just gonna go to the loo, and then we'll do another dungeon. Let me be right back. I won't be too long. I'll be like 2 secs. Hello. Alright, we'll try to do another dungeon now. I could, I mean, it makes sense to show Conduit as well, right? Where is my Conduit build? Oh, Conduit 17th. What's the add-on at the bottom that shows your previous ability? Good question. So it is, I imagine it's this one you're talking about. It is an add-on called Wildu Tools. It has a lot of cool functionalities, actually. Like, you can do a lot of things with it. A lot of, like, quality of life features. But I literally just use it for the GCD history. um, but it's got a lot of cool things that you can actually do with it. You can give yourself a crosshair if you really want, stuff like that. Basically, it's like a big quality of life UI thing. But I straight up just use it for GCD history. Wildu Tools. Is there a big difference between two-hander and dual-wielding DPS? I really like transmogging fist weapons. In pre-patch, probably not. But in Season 1 of Midnight, I want to say I assume, but I'm 99% sure that one-handers will be better, as they tend to be during the start of an expansion. And it's for the almost, not solely the reason, but a big reason is enchants. With weapons, at the start of an expansion, enchants are at their strongest. Because what they've been doing recently is they'll release enchants, and then they won't make them stronger as the expansion goes on. So their stats, because we then level up, get higher stats, the value of an enchant stat is actually a lot weaker. So at the start of an expansion, enchants for your weapons are at their usual premium highest. So having two of those tends to be more value than having one of them. So that's one of like the big reasons why two one-handers are better. So one-handers are likely to be better, which I'm a fan of too. I like the bamboo stick, but I would also prefer to have my two Legion artifact weapons on. People have been saying to absolutely get the crafted two-hand as soon as possible to save a ton of crests. Potentially, I haven't looked too much into min-maxing and crafting. I'm sure that I'll be told what to make. let, let me put it that way. I mean, I will have to do a little bit of research, but predominantly, yes, crafting weapons tends to be the best. I know there's a really good ring for crafting as well, but I don't know how valuable that is to craft straight away. Usually weapons are just the best. So if you can save crest with a two-hander, then it's likely that that will probably be suggested initially. It really depends what you're doing, right? I'll see if I can get into this gambit. Sweet. So we're going to go Conduit now to see Conduit AoE and see how that kind of plays out in comparison. It's another dungeon with big trash pulls, so it should be good. Two-handers also generate less dual threat procs right now. Or do they? I thought the idea was that they were trying to make it so that they don't. Oh, right, it's damage increased. Hmm. I know that they were trying to balance it. I guess from the sounds of it, they haven't balanced it too well. Because that was also another thing, right? With in the War Within, dual threat was quite useful. It was stronger with two-handers, two one-handers. So there was like a big debate: will I get more value with dual threat with two one-handers, which you would have? So there's a few things to consider. It's bugged, of course. Yeah, when's Windwalker not bugged? I want Lighter Than Air. I don't need Detox, so we'll take that. We'll take Still Step Coil. I think that's fine. Yeah, so we're going Conduit this time. We'll see kind of how it feels in comparison. Um, it should do less damage. It should feel worse. So don't don't get startled if I start complaining, because it should feel worse. It got pretty nerfed. Like, although it also benefits from the 40% Fist of Fury buff, it doesn't have the extra buff that Shadopan did to Fist of Fury on top of it. So it is, yeah, it's in a worse spot.
5, 4,
Oh, I would have preferred to change my trinket, but that's okay. Let's try net get one shot. I mean, its burst damage is okay. Like, that doesn't feel awful. What, Feral's doing pretty good. Might need to re-roll. Feral main. But its highlights are going to be its burst windows. Outside of the burst windows, it's going to feel really rough. So I think I'm going to have to try be a bit more, I don't know, a bit smarter with how I use Zenith here. Like, I can't play it how I would Shadopan, which is essentially Zenith as soon as possible because there's such a short cooldown, right? I probably have to try make sure I have one for every single pack. Once again, I'm doing my utmost to not press spinning crane kick unless I get a Chiji proc. It's just not strong enough. Like, the playstyle is kind of similar, like, fundamentally. Obviously, they're different in how the two hero talents play, but the main thing of, like, making sure you're getting Fist of Fury out as often as possible, using Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick to do that, those still stay the same. So if big cooldown's coming up now, tank has just run off. This is a good thing. Oh, everybody's run off. Okay, off I go then. The big difference is I'm not using Strike of the Windlord. I'm using Whirling Dragon Punch, and this is actually the first time I've really run Whirling Dragon Punch with Conduit. It feels weird. So I'm just getting used to it a little bit. Because usually with Strike of the Windlord, you'll send out Strike of the Windlord first, right? To then, to get the benefit of that damage. As well as that Heart of the Jade Serpent window. The ordering of the Jade Serpent window gets front-loaded. But with Whirling Dragon Punch, you can only press that after you've done Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury. So actually, you get another Heart of the Jade Serpent at the end rather than at the start. But on paper, I think this is stronger for AoE at the moment. I think we're winning? I think my damage meters have cooked themselves again. I'll have to sort it in a sec. I need to hold Zenith here. I almost sent it. So I'm just so used to sending with Shadopan. But I have my big cooldowns coming up, and you have to always have a Zenith for that. Otherwise, you're delaying it, and things just turn bad. I'm not going to send my cooldowns here, though, because the pack's almost dead. I'm going to wait till we're doing the next one. At the door? Yeah, at the entrance. Yeah, but right now I'm outside of cooldowns, and it feels kind of bad. I feel like I'm not doing damage outside of cooldowns. Everything just feels a little bit slower. Which is natural for Conduit. But it just feels weaker. Can I change that to... That is overall. Okay. That's weird. Ow? Why? Oh well. Ignore the damage meters. Alright, I should send out cooldowns here. I thought he'd do a little bit bigger than this, I'll be honest, but not much I can really do about that. I once again have to hold Zenith for a whole minute. That in itself just feels bad, right? Because Zenith does a good amount of damage. But it also just allows the flow of the play to feel so much better. That is the one thing I'm not a fan of with Conduit in AoE situations, is how long you actually have to hold cooldowns to send out cooldowns. Oh, we're skipping that. That's why we didn't do that. Oh, I've lighted an air again. Blessed. So I don't know if he's going to pull this into the boss or not. Sometimes, well, from what I remember when I did Mythic Plus a few months ago, we did pull it in. I'm not sure if we're going to. It looks like we're doing them here. Which is fine. But I need to decide if I'm sending out my cooldowns on these guys. I think we look like we're moving to the boss room. I think I'm going to hold my cooldowns because I think we are going to pull them into the boss. Oh. Man down. Right, I think because someone died, we're probably not going to pull them into the boss now. But I can't be holding my cooldowns for, like, literally an extra minute on top of everything, so I just had to send them here. Oh my god. Oh, I hate this room so much. This is fun gameplay. This is really fun gameplay. Please, can these things die? I'm going to send out Zenith again here, because there's only like a 10-second difference between Zenith now and Zuin, so I will delay Zuin by a little bit. But I get the value of having extra damage. I need to piss off because this is going to burn me. Psych! See, they're only like 15 seconds apart, so it's not too bad. Yeah, that trash pack took so long to get down. Yoink. Speed you up. I'm going to delay Zuin here anyway. It might line up actually quite nicely. I was going to delay it for the ads to spawn, because once the ads spawn, then you get a nice cleave on them as well, because they've got to go down. So that's the thing with Conduit that I find like is quite different to Shadopan. As Shadopan, I feel like I just send anything on cooldown, essentially. But with Conduit, I feel like I have to plan ahead all the time. I'm constantly... That's like why I'm just yapping to myself. So I'm like trying to pre-plan how I want to do this. Try and get all of them by positioning. I think that was pretty decent positioning there. We're going to get hit by the beam. Cringe. Ow. I should probably knock these on top of each other. That would be smart. Where is he going? Okay. Oh, it's the other side of the room, isn't it? And then, I mean, the boss is on 30% health. I have cooldowns in 30 seconds. I think it's going to be too low for me to realistically send out cooldowns here and get value. I think it's going to be more valuable for me to just save cooldowns and use them on the trash pack that comes out at the other side of the portal. Yeah, I'm pretty confident. We've done 10% health. It should be almost dead by then. He says, hopefully. Uh-oh. That's not where you want to stand. Move straight back on top of the tank. Are we just skipping these? I mean, we can, if we want. I can just paralysis that one. Oh. It got broken out of paralysis. Ooh! Okay. Oh, I feel so rusty in this game. The only positive is I'm not dying to mechanics. It could be worse. It could be worse. I could be actively dying. But I'm playing very poorly with positioning. If that frontal's physical, you can probably tank it. Yeah, probably. I don't want to, though. I don't want to find out if it's physical or not. Is this pre-patch or beta? This is pre-patch. So this is what we saved all our cooldowns for, so let's hope it pays off. I mean, it's decent damage, but I think that Shadopan... I mean, I know that Shadopan would do more on the pull I just did. Like, it's 100k, which isn't bad. That's all my burst, that's my trinket. That's essentially everything I have in the tank, and it pulls out, like, what, like 84,000 damage? Whereas Shadopan, I'd do the same thing, but I know it would be higher. And then I'd still have a Zenith to send out on this next set, whereas I'm debating holding my Zenith now for Zuin, or I choose to delay it. I don't have that issue with, you no longer have that issue with Shadopan. Because they got rid of Zuin on Shadopan, right? Like, previously you would have to hold it for Zuin, but now we don't have a cap for that hero talent. So you don't have to think about things like that. I am going to hold here. I'm going to hold until I get my cooldowns, which isn't really holding. We'll try focus this guy. This is the biggest pull. The next one's a little bit smaller than this, so it makes sense to send the moment I got my cooldowns back up, and then we'll be a little bit weaker on the next trash pack. Then we should get everything back up for the boss. Which is generally when you want all your cooldowns back anyway. You want to be doing boss damage. I'm actually going to send out Zenith on this. Okay, he got one shot. Feels weird. Okay, I almost got one shot. Feels weird. The reason I'm sending out Zenith here is because the timer between the two isn't that long. It's also a bigger pack, right? Like, there's enough ads here to justify trying to get them down quickly and dealing the damage on them with the extra Zenith cooldown reduction and damage dealt. Like, it's a 15-second loss, but I'm okay taking that loss because it is a single target boss. And realistically, I'm only going to send my cooldowns on that boss one time anyway, so when I send them doesn't matter too much. Have I tried the raid bosses on beta? Yes, I did, all the way back in November. Oh man, it feels ages ago, actually. Did I do mythic testing or heroic? We did the mythic testing. I think some of the bosses look cool. But when I did that on the beta, it was when Windwalker like was quite a bit different than it is now. Like, we still use slicing winds. A lot has changed since then, ability wise. But in general, I think the bosses do look quite fun. There are some that like are a little bit weird, like Salad Bar. I didn't think that fight was very engaging. It was basically like pull this boss around a room with some circles. The double dragon boss. Sorry, I don't know any of the bosses' names, by the way. I have no idea what they're called. But the double dragon boss looks like it is not made for melee in the slightest. It's like a two-target cleave boss fight, with the caveat that the bosses can't be next to each other. So, good luck getting melee DPS onto that boss fight. You know what I mean? There's a tic-tac-toe boss, which looked interesting, but I think that's just gonna... Ow. Please get off me. I think that's just gonna be, like, worked out really quickly, and then you're just basically gonna play it by how it's worked out. These guys are hitting me. I'll touch and death him, and then we'll go back to the boss. This fight's getting a little bit messy. The Paladin boss looks interesting, but it looks really... it also looks messy. I am sending cooldowns here because we're only at 40% on this boss's health. I didn't think it would go this poorly. So I'm just going to send out cooldowns here to make sure that we actually kill the boss and time the key. Or complete the key. I'll try do a good Ring of Peace here. We are so close to the edge of the water. I mean, I think this boss fight's going alright. He's got to turn around. I can't really help. I don't have a ring. He hit one ad. Oh no! Oh my god. Cleanest time cap and hook I've ever done. Not gonna lie. I'm quite surprised we did that. This is so messy. Is the raid kind of melee friendly, tough, or are we doomed? See, I'm trying to remember. It was all the way back in November, so it is a while ago. But from like what I remember, there was only like 1 or 2 bosses that felt like, this is gonna suck for a melee. Like the egg boss felt fine, the one with the phoenix. The tic-tac-toe boss felt fine as a melee. The paladin boss also felt fine as a melee, right? Like you always have 2 paladins, and then I think one of the paladins is off tanked somewhere else. I think that's fine. What other bosses were there? The single boss in the raid, Chimerius or something. I think that was fine for melee as well. Basically, the mechanic of that is you have the upside down in that boss. So you have like the normal realm and the upside down, and then people have to go down to the upside down to kill ads, and that felt fine. It was really just the dragon boss, which is probably where you're going to see the biggest disparity of DPS in like Race to World First and stuff like that. Although saying that, it does spawn a lot of ads that spawn on top of like players' locations. So you do need some very... I need to pop cooldowns, but I didn't want to do it on any of these packs because they were really small, but I can't be holding 2 stacks of Zenith. That's just crazy. Oh, there's also the boss where you, he's stood off the side of a cliff. He's a massive model, and then you essentially have to move left and right, and there are rings that come out and stuff. That, I think, is a fine melee fight. Overall, I do think most of the bosses I tested, fine. It's just that dragon boss. I could see, like, if the damage check's tight, you're going to drop melee to make sure you're hitting both the dragons. So I think one of the issues we found when we were doing the beta was that the dragon that is in melee range always goes down fastest, because that's usually where the ads spawned as well. So you're more likely to be hitting the ads and the boss. But if you've got like 15 warlocks that are hitting both of them, then you're probably fine. And then I did manage to get to test the, like, only for like 20 or 30 seconds, the final boss, oh, I don't even remember what it's called. It's the one that wasn't meant to be tested. The Naru. And that one's, it's too hard to tell, really, I think, if that is actually going to be what DPS sort that's going to be catered to. Because we only saw, like, one mechanic, and then they literally fucking reset it all. Because you were not meant to go practice that boss. So overall, I think melee's going to be fine. I didn't see too much wrong with it. Maybe just the one boss might be a bit rough. Is Windwalker Monk AoE better with the changes? Partially, but partially not. With Shadopan, yes, Shadopan is stronger, but Conduit, this hero talent that I'm playing at the moment, is weaker. Conduit's weaker in all content, whereas Shadopan's just stronger in AoE now. Thanks for the insight. No worries. I wish I could remember the boss's names. I'm sorry. Sorry, I can't remember the boss's names. It's been so long, and we only did the mythic testing. We didn't do heroic or anything like that. There are some crazy fights though. I think we're having Silken Court v2. From what I understand, there's one boss fight where you're going to be split into polarities again. So it's going to be one of those like dance fights, which I actually really enjoy. I like synchronized fights. What I mean by that are like fights that you learn by pulling, right? That are like pretty much the exact same every single time you do them. So you should, in theory, get better. Like, you basically learn how to play the fight. It's like a dance almost, so you're learning the steps as you go. Scripted, I suppose is the word. Those are my favorite sort of fights. Oh, I'm sorry, Sleer. Alright, I'm going to wait for her to spawn the ads because I'm a dirty little padder. Some things never change. Yeah, it's done that thing again where my two DPS meters are the exact same meters. Overall. Okay, that fixed it. So, like, I think this dungeon will probably come at around 40,000 damage, which is okay. But it's not like that's nothing special, right? It's not impressive. In comparison to like some of the best specs in the game at the moment, like they can put out a lot more than 40,000 damage. That's what I mean. I think Conduit is struggling, but when we finish the dungeon, I'll show you the damage breakdown for this one too, and you'll see that it's awfully familiar to the Shadopan one. So like the same sort of damage is coming from the same sort of abilities. It's just one of them is stronger. One of them just hits them harder. But like the breakdown profile will be about the same, right? With Fist of Fury just well above the rest. I don't want another set of assassins. Nice. That hurts a bit. Did we fail? No, no. It looked like we failed. It did the line animation again. Oh, I might need to move that. Alright, let's see if I can dodge. I can. Good. Always a good step. Barrel down. So we should get one more intermission phase. I'm going to save Karma for that, because the explosion actually hurts quite a lot. And I do have the Zenith up again, but there's no point sending it now. Oh, let's play the dodge game. Can I dodge? I would say yes. Oh, okay, yoink. I can't Karma from here, so good luck me. I was too far away from the boss to Karma it, and I was not moving at the last second to try and get that off. And now we're just going to wait for Zuin to come back up, and hopefully we finish off the boss, although we don't have loss. Hmm.
I can feel the power of the first ones. Mine to control.
Alright, play a little game called Can You Dodge? Whoop.
The power of the first ones. Mine to control.
Oh. Alright, between us, I definitely jumped back into that and it exploded and didn't kill me. But we'll just pretend I didn't.
So, oppose me and be extinguished.
I'll karma this one.
How dare you hinder me?
Oh my god, so much movement.
The power of the
It's gonna do big circle ability now, no? It's not. Holy shit. Alright, I should have sent Zenith out like 10 seconds ago. I thought it was about to cast this.
first ones. Mine to control. My goddamn.
So yeah, about 40,000 damage. It's not like, I don't know, like the burst windows don't feel too bad, but it's outside of those that it just feels so lackluster. Rising Sun Kick, surprisingly doing a lot more of the percentage damage than in Shadopan, but that kind of makes sense, right? Because Shadopan got the extra Fist of Fury buff on top of it, which means Fist of Fury will just do more damage. So I suppose in like a weird little way, maybe Conduit is actually better at cryo target damage. It's difficult to say, but basically this is how the damage breakup is. It's Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, and it's the same for Shadopan. Am I focusing crit? I'm focusing on mastery, not sure which one's better. I'm not really focusing on any secondary stats at the moment. Just because it's pre-patch, right? So we're about to like replace all of our gear. So basically I'm using the same gear that I would have used when I was pushing content or trying to do keys and stuff, so that's why my mastery is pretty high. But realistically, it doesn't take a lot of mastery to get to a high percentage. So I suppose if you do want to chase like secondary stats and stuff, having mastery in like the 90s is absolutely fine, and then try to get yourself a bit more crit and haste. Maybe even lower for mastery, like 80% is probably fine as well, just because of the diminishing returns. Crit is a bit more valuable, and so is haste at the start of a tier. But basically, it doesn't take too much mastery to actually get to a high percentage. Can I show the best monk talents right now? Yeah, sure. I think it's Shadopan. Well, I don't think. It is Shadopan. Shadopan is just better at the moment. And in terms of AoE, it's something along these lines. It's debatable, which is better between Drinking Hole Cover and Spiritual Focus. I guess it just depends on your preferred playstyle. I personally prefer having Zenith on a 1 minute cooldown to a 1 minute 20 cooldown. There is value to Drinking Horn Cover, where you just get more punch in each Zenith, and basically it's playing around this Rising Sun Kick build, right? So we take all the Rising Sun Kick talents. Although Rising Sun Kick isn't your highest damage, it still packs a punch, and you're pressing it almost all the time to reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury. So you might as well take advantage of that by taking all of the kind of like crit amplifiers and AoE amplifiers it has. Hey bro, I watch a lot of your videos and have a mental condition that makes me have a really hard time sticking to things. My question is Windwalker going to be a safe character to play in Midnight if you don't really care how much damage you do, and more in terms of fun? It's a good question. I guess fun is like subjective, right? Like someone's idea of fun is different to someone else's idea of fun. But in general, I think Windwalker playstyle is always fun, right? We're hypermobile. Like, if we take damage out of the equation, we're a hypermobile DPS, so like, we can get around a lot. I think our utility is pretty good. Like, I love Ring of Peace. You know, Leg Sweep. We've got decent utility across the board. In terms of like the actual playstyle, I think we have a lot of burst windows. So we're quite like a burst window spec at the moment. With Conduit, we have the big burst windows, um, which are the ones where you send out Zuin, and you got Zenith, and you got this Heart of the Jade Serpent, really fast cooldowns, right? So you're sending out tons of Fist of Furies in really short periods of time. So it's a really high APM sort of playstyle, but like there's a lot going on in short periods of time, and then outside of those burst windows, it's kind of a little bit slower. You're just keeping to a rhythm of it. So it's like very fast in short periods and then kind of chill. Whereas Shadopan, I'd also call Shadopan kind of like a burst damage spec, but I'd say it's more consistent because you're still doing decent damage outside of the burst windows. But the burst windows are more common, especially if you're like going for 1 minute Zenith, which is your burst window. And Shadowpan's also pretty fun, but I'd say Shadowpan is like the rhythm that I was talking about with Conduit, where Conduit has the high burst and then rhythm in between. But Shadowpan kind of just has rhythm like throughout, like you're just playing on this like rhythm of like priority. But on top of that, I think Windwalker's also fun in that it is freeform in a way. Like it's freeform's a decent description of it in the fact that you can never press the same button twice, like damage wise, otherwise you lose on mastery. So it's not, it's different to other specs where like, you know, you're playing Death Knight and you press Obliterate 5 times in a row because it procs or something. Where with Windwalker, even if you like you get like certain procs and stuff, you can't double press them. You then have to press something else. So you're like, you are constantly thinking on the fly to a degree about like what's my next button going to be? How can I press this button 2 times in a row? What's going to be my best filler in between of those? Managing my chi and my energy. So I think Windwalker's always fun to play. If we take damage out of the equation, and I think its damage balancing is good in the sense of not how much damage it does, but what actually does damage. Because right now they've made it so Fist of Fury does your highest damage, and that kind of makes sense, right? It has the longest cooldown. It's super cool, like martial arts punching, yeah. so like it feels like it should be doing the most damage. But Rising Sun Kick is also doing a good amount of damage, even in AoE situations, and it all kind of like flows together. You're playing a lot of the gameplay at the moment. The gameplay loop is Fist of Furying as often as possible. How can I do this through my other abilities? Because your other abilities help reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury. So your goal is to Fist of Fury and then reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury, so then Fist of Fury again through the use of your other abilities. And I think that's a fun gameplay loop. It's a little bit different. It's like you would kind of do that previously, but it was never like it was never like the intentional goal to do that. But it feels a lot more prominent now that that is your main goal. You're trying to do this, so I think it's a fun gameplay loop. We'll have to see if it holds up, but I like it. Do Empowered Sun and Regular counter 2 different attacks? They do, yeah. So they don't share mastery. And as some of you have said in the chat, Russian Wind Kick has a larger range, and they don't share a cooldown. And Russian Wind Kick doesn't have a cooldown. So in theory, they are both different abilities, but they share the same slot, if that makes sense. So if you proc Rushing Wind Kick, you can no longer Rising Sun Kick until you send out your Rushing Wind Kick. It kind of like overrides. It goes on top of it. But you press Rushing Wind Kick, and your Rising Sun Kick will still be on whatever cooldown it was previously. They don't share one, basically. So that's useful. So like a really cool combo that I tend to end up doing is I'll get a Rushing Wind Kick proc, so I'll Rushing Wind Kick straight into a Rising Sun Kick, right, if they're both off of cooldown, to try and then get the cooldown of Fist of Fury lower than it currently is, if that's my goal at the moment. So that's kind of like a cool play style with it, like back-to-back. As well as that, I'm pretty sure the animation's a front flip. Whereas Rising Sun Kick's a back flip. I think Rushing Wind Kick, you do a little front flip. So that's kind of cool. I find it strange that Rushing Wind Kick hits like a noodle. Yeah, the thing is, I don't think it is meant to like hit massively. The benefits to it are that it doesn't cost any chi, right? And as well as that, another benefit is it reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury. So that's like a pro to it. In that, although it's not like it's not your heaviest hitter, right? It's all the way like it's not bad, right? It's decent for the amount of cast that you actually send out on it, but it's not there to be like you're trying to get this as often as possible because this is where all your damage is coming from. It's just that little bit extra on top of everything that like helps the flow of things, you know? Like it's a really good filler because it does damage and it costs no chi. So its chi to damage like value is infinite because it doesn't cost anything. Um, so if you want to press 2 of the same ability twice in a row and you have rushing wind kick up, it's a really good filler ability to do that. Can I show my talents? Yeah, sure. This is what I'm running at the moment. Russian wind kick feels so good in the rotation, though. It does. Genuinely, it feels really good. At first, like when I was doing like my alpha videos and stuff months back, I wasn't a fan of how it sounded, right? Because at that time we couldn't play test it. We could just see what the abilities did on paper. And in my mind, I thought, well, it does no damage. It does split damage. It can only do a finite amount of damage. It's probably going to suck. But then you start playing it and you feel the flow of it. And especially since they buffed how often it procs and it doesn't have its own internal cooldown, it just feels really good with the flow of things. And it helps like keep things going. 'Cause you got to remember, Windwalker's balancing chi and energy, right? And if you're spending chi, you're hopefully having high energy whilst you're spending your chi, so then you can, build up your chi, then get low energy. So having like an ability that does damage and allows you to press something in between 2 chi abilities that doesn't cost chi really helps with the energy regen management side of things because you're not pressing a tiger palm to get that chi back. Instead, you're expending no energy but having a filler ability, and then you have the same chi on the other side. It just kind of like helps with the rotation. It smooths it out. So it is a cool ability. Big fan of it. What 3 races would you recommend for Windwalker Monk for min max? It's a good question. I'm not too sure at the moment because I haven't looked at min maxing. I'm pretty sure Night Elf is the best. From what I've seen sim wise, they usually use the best race on the sims. Is Night Elf the one that gives you crit? Because if Night Elf gives you crit, that probably makes sense, with crit being rather valuable next expansion. Other than that, I'm not too sure which ones are the best at the moment. Sorry, I just haven't kept up to date with what the best min max races are. But your usual good bets are things like Magheart Orc tends to always be good, right? It's just a very strong ancestral cool, right? It's pretty useful. Gnome, it's always a gnome. No, no, I don't think it is. If no, right, I'm telling you right now, if gnome, I'm not even joking. If gnome had like a 2% increased damage for some reason, I still wouldn't play it. I wouldn't be caught dead on a gnome. I just no, absolutely not. There's no way you can seriously play a gnome and just walk around in this game serious. You're not a serious person. I'm a panda monk. I think pandas are actually pretty good. I heard that their food buff is pretty decent. I personally prefer Void Elf. Void Elf was decent last tier. It was pretty mid some of the tiers before, but I just like the aesthetic of it. I think Spatial Rift is a very useful ability. Although we have a lot of mobility, Spatial Rift always finds a way to be useful, right? Because, sure, we can roll 3 times, but I can't roll through a mechanic that one-shots me, right? I can Spatial Rift through it. But you can also Transcendence. Yeah, you can, but stop. Spatial Rift is good. Oh, Dwarf is the 2% crit damage in addition to Stone Form. I think that's the play. Yeah, I can see Dwarf being good. I mean, Dwarf is always good just because of Stone Form, right? Night Elf is useful because people like playing Shadow Meld, so you always see Night Elf in Mythic Plus. If you watch like high-end M Plus, people run it. Yeah, there's a few options. I think Void Elf with a 5% random bonus damage is pretty nice. Yeah, I think Void Elf is nice with that. I think it's stronger with Shadopan if you play on 1 minute, because it's a 1 minute cooldown, right? If you start playing Conduit at 1 minute 30, or you play Shadopan at 1 minute 20, or whatever you play it as, you start to lose the value of it, right? Because it gets the most value from having the cooldowns line up with your racial. Obviously, we're talking like really like minimal numbers here that don't impact too much on the overall grand scheme of things. But that's usually when Void Elf is at its strongest, when your cooldowns line up with your racial, which they can do with 1 minute Zenith, which is kind of nice. Discord was saying Night Elf Dwarf for M+. Yeah, makes sense. Dwarf, because, I mean, their racials will be really important as well. Both of those are just... Night Elf and Dwarf just tend to be the standard always for M+. Night Elf, because Shadow Meld is just so valuable, right? Not only can you get rid of aggro, you can also remove mechanics from yourself. Let's say something's targeting you with a mechanic, like a boss. Shadow Meld has loads of like usefulness there, like loads of mechanics that can just completely negate. Like boss is casting wipe all 5 targets on you, but it's targeting you. You Shadow Meld, boss forgets that it's casting that ability and moves on to something else, you know? And then Dwarf is just good because it removes like pretty much everything, right? Bleeds, poisons, other stuff. The other bad stuff too. New allied race has crit damage passive too. I didn't even know there was a new allied race. Oh, the Haranar. Haranar? I think that's what they're called, right? Aren't they just like druids that look more like druids than druids? I did see like a lot of that posted when they came out, and everyone was like, "This is what I wish druid looked like." They put more effort into the Haranar than druids. Dwarf replaces old diffuse. Ooh, that is a good point actually. I think, like, yeah, from that perspective, right, if you want a survivability as well, just having that extra defensive that removes, like Diffuse did, that's quite useful. What kind of damage do I do on dummies? What sort of dummies? Like single target or AoE? No way they'll let Windwalker stay like this. Fist of Fury does 45% of my overall, and nothing else does any damage besides Fist of Fury practically. I think they have... Okay, it sounds crazy, but I think they have the right idea in terms of how damage should, like, where ability should be and how the playstyle should be. Like, I don't criticize that. I think that playing builds where you don't press Fist of Fury is just inherently wrong, right? And that's what potentially we were going to do. Like, Fist of Fury should probably be carrying your damage. Maybe not to the extent that it is now. So, like, with Rising Sun Kick also helping out, like, the playstyle is really fun and makes sense, and it's all intuitive in a way. I just think the damage numbers are off for certain things. Like, Fist of Fury probably will get a nerf, but I really hope that they compensate it with a buff to, like, Rising Sun Kick. Like, I don't think they needed to nerf Rising Sun Kick. Like, they could have kept Rising Sun Kick how it was, and then buff Fist of Fury. Maybe even nerfed it a tiny bit, but then buffed Fist of Fury so that you weren't playing the Fist of Furyless builds. But I feel like they went quite extreme with what they did. Like, they tried to obliterate Rising Sun Kick, and then really buff Fist of Fury. But then they nerfed damage by 10% on top of that. Granted, if they didn't nerf damage by 10%, Windwalker probably would be the strongest spec in the game. Maybe competing. It would be a pretty close competition, I think. Yeah, maybe just like if I had to fix damage on a whim, I'd say nerf Fist of Fury damage, buff overall damage by a bit, and then Windwalker is probably fine. Like, reduce the nerf by 5%, like buff damage by 5%, nerf Fist of Fury by 10%. Yeah, I think that's fine, right? That sounds about right. Good deal, trade deal, happy. They already put in a Fist of Fury nerf. They made 1 versus many, 50 instead of 60. Yeah, that is true. But that's just Blizzard not implementing things how they say they're going to, which it happens a lot more than you think it would. They'll say one thing in a blue post, and then what happens isn't quite that. Everything's open to interpretation. Yeah, that does suck a little bit. Did they buff Rising Sun Kick by 20% a couple weeks back just to nerf it? Yeah, they did buff it, but the issue with buffing it was that it led way to Rising Sun Kick being an absolute monster ability for Windwalker, so much so that in single target, it became better to not press Fist of Fury. So, like, you dropped all Fist of Fury talents, basically, and you only use Fist of Fury to expend, like, Flurry Strikes or during Heart of the Jade Serpent. And Fist of Fury was doing, like, super low damage. It would be, like, all the way down at the bottom of your damage breakdown. And the issue of that is, well, I mean, you can kind of see the issue of that, right? Like, you're, like, on paper, what ability should be the strongest is, like, basically getting ignored completely. So to counteract that, so that's kind of why I think they've gone to these extremes to counteract it, but I don't know if they've hit the number mark. But tuning's tuning, right? They can change numbers whenever they want. I care mostly about the playstyle at the moment, and I think the playstyle is in a healthy place, so they just need to tweak some of the numbers, and that'd be nice. How do I think about the lower third of the right side of the spectrum, like the part where the interesting talents are supposed to be? That's a cool question. I think that compared to what it was at the start of Alpha, it's better, but it's still pretty bland, right? I think, well, for starters, they're almost all passives, right? Like, all of them are just passives, these bottom talents here, except for, well, I suppose Airborne Rhythm, Hurricane Bolt are passives too, Slicing Wind. But they are all passives. They don't, like, fundamentally, they're not new buttons or anything like that. I think Martial Agility is so boring, right? That they all it does is increase your melee attack speed. Like, it doesn't change your gameplay at all. Flurry of Zuin doesn't change your gameplay at all. Skyfire Heal. I mean, you can argue it does change your gameplay because you're Rising Sun kicking more, but you do that without that or not, so it doesn't really change your gameplay at all. Harmonic Combo was a really interesting one. And this would change your gameplay because it changes the chi cost of Fist of Fury, right? And there are still some builds where you run this. I'm pretty sure you were running it for Conduit last week, but I'm not sure if it's as strong as it was anymore. But that was an interesting one because it actually had implications to how you played with chi management and stuff. And Airborne Rhythm, Hurricane Bolt also impacted Slicing Winds, but they killed Slicing Winds, so once again, pointless. And then Jade Fire Stomp is also just passive, right? In the sense that it does it itself when you Fist of Fury. I suppose you can kind of force it by casting Fist of Fury, but you kind of get no, like, rhythm all of these. They kind of do it themselves. There's kind of, like, no... you don't really decide anything that goes on here. For these bottom ones, at least. I actually think this row's more interesting than the bottom row. Like, this row's really interesting, the second to last row. Because you've got Rushing Wind Kick, which fundamentally changes your rotation and makes things feel a lot smoother, faster paced. Zuin's Battle Gear, well, it also fundamentally changes your rotation. It means that you want to be trying to use Rising Sun Kick to decrease the cooldown of Fist of Fury. Thunder Fist, not so much. Weapons of Wind, again, it's passive, but it makes Zenith stronger, so we like that. Knowledge of the Broken is also, although we don't, well, I'm not taking it right now, it does impact gameplay a little bit in that you've increased your caps of teaching in the monastery. You gain 4 stacks when you cast an ability, so you're trying to manage that. You're trying not to overcap to get big blackout kick hits. Slicing Winds, should I say more? It's its own ability. And then I guess Jadefire Stomp in the bin. But yeah, overall, this road's cool. This road's boring as fuck, I guess. Slicing Winds is such a horrible talent. The rest is boring. I think Capstone talent should impact your gameplay. I think Slicing Winds... if Slicing Winds was strong enough, it actually wouldn't be that bad right now. Because I think that the worst thing that happened to Slicing Winds was how it became attached to Heart of the Jade Serpent in Season 3 of The War Within. It wasn't something that affected Shadopan, but it completely changed how you use the button with Conduit. And it made it relatively clunky. You were forced to press it at certain times, right? And this led to the issue of forced movement. And a lot of people don't like Slicing Winds in general because of forced movement. Personally, I didn't think it was forced movement until they made this change. because you had to press it after Strike of the Windlord, and you can't really delay these two buttons because you're trying to keep up Heart of the Jade Serpents during a finite window to allow yourself to get as many out before your burst window. So it felt really bad to use because you were forced to press at certain times. But I think in Season 2, I thought it was a really cool ability, and it's gone back to that in the sense that it's not attached to Heart of the Jade Serpent anymore. The issue with it is it does no damage. It does no damage, and its nodes suck. So, I mean, that's one way to kill it, I guess. Just make it, just make it bad. If you don't want someone playing your talent, just make it awful. But if it was playable, I would play it because I think it's a fine button now, and being able to cast it when you want to cast it is good. So I didn't mind it too much in Shadopan, but in Conduit, it just felt so forced. In all honesty, do I think Windwalker's in a good spot right now? Asking because I feel like Windwalker is always in the lowest tier of damage every expansion. Fundamentally and rotation-wise, I think the gameplay is good. I think it's just a tuning thing at the moment. And that can all change. The one thing I'm a little bit disappointed at is Shadopan being better than Conduit. In the sense that in my mind, they're very different difficulty levels, right? Like, in my mind, Shadopan is easier. And I think it would be hard to argue that Shadowpan's harder than Conduit, like how much you actually have to think about, work around, all that sort of jazz, right? Like, there's a lot that goes into, like, playing Conduit in comparison to Shadopan. And it feels like if Shadowpan's stronger, well, that just feels a bit weird, right? Like, you could play Conduit at, like, 90% like optimization, right? And you could play Shadopan at maybe like 70%, but Shadopan would do more damage right now because Conduit got that gutted. I think it would feel more rewarding for Conduit to be the more damaging hero talent, like just feel better. I don't mind it so much that Shadopan's stronger in AoE, because I think flurry strikes and that kind of like work out like that. But I think in single target, it is criminal that Shadopan is stronger, and I'd really not like that to happen. Once we actually get to midnight, because I do think that's criminal. If you're like on a single target boss, one, you're playing the boss fight, two, you're trying to play this relatively difficult hero talent build to the best of your ability. But why would you even go to those lengths if you could just play Shadopan and just kind of turn your brain off a little bit? Like a lack of better words, you kind of can. Like everything that you do for Shadopan, you have to do for Conduit and more. Like the fundamental rotation and stuff is the same, but then Conduit's got the added tracking and all of that, whereas they've removed a lot of that from Shadopan. On the flip side, I don't think it being simpler is bad, right? It sounds like I'm being quite negative on it being simple. In fact, I think Shadopan being simpler is good for Windwalker, because it helps players learn the fundamentals of the spec. It's an easier one to learn rotations, learn boss fights on. But I don't think it should be the strongest spec, if that makes sense, right? Otherwise, why would you then learn Conduit if it's just going to be weaker? But tuning's tuning, we'll see. But I think it's in a healthy spot right now. I don't know, maybe I'm just coping. Alright, we'll do... Oh, thank you, Kreb1, for the Prime. I completely missed that. I'm sorry about that. I don't have my... I have this really weird setup where I don't hear the notifications. You hear the notifications if someone follows and stuff. I don't hear them unless I have a tab open on my desktop. It's weird. So I didn't have it on, so I apologize for that. But thank you so much. That's really kind. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to do another Shadopan dungeon because it just slaps an M+.
A kite cannot fly unless the wind blows against it, Grandmaster.
Did I create my own cooldown manager, or did you import it from someone? I used Luxthos as a baseline. So I used Luxthos as a baseline because I used his weak aura in the War Within. And so I was really hoping that he'd create a cooldown manager that made sense compared to that. And he pretty much did, right? A lot of this is fundamentally from his guide on how to do it. I just tweaked one or two things to make it more mine. But basically, it's just a mishmash of add-ons, and you probably get about the same results if you follow the Luxthos guide to creating a cooldown manager. So I essentially do that. I have like maybe one or two extra add-ons or tweaks. 15 halls? That'd be cool. That's pretty, a lot of trash in there. Sweet. Halls. Where is my teleport? Am I crazy? Where's my teleport for this dungeon? Okay, yeah, I had to look in the Shadowlands one. Okay, sure, that makes sense. It's in Shadowlands dungeon. I guess because it's reset, right? I guess we're not in a season anymore. That kind of makes sense. Just staring at that dungeon tab for like 30 seconds trying to find it. Give me hope for Windwalker because I'm between Windwalker and Enhanced Shaman, but Monk tier looks dope. It does look cool, actually. The mod does look pretty sick. Alright, I'll try to give you hope. I'll do my best. Make sure we have food bath. Man tries hard in pre-patch dungeon. Live. Do we ruin our mastery if we use Rising Sun Kick right after Rushing Wind Kick? You do not. They are classed as two different abilities. So you can use them back to back. If you couldn't, that would be pretty atrocious, actually. That would be bad. But it is a good question. Because they share the same, like, slot, right? Shadopan's probably double passive trinket. Hell no, I'm using my Ritual Forge. Can't take it away from me. It gives me a whopping 192 agility. That's crazy.
I have many, many wares.
Five, four, three, two.
I have the power. I mean, that is actually quite a lot of agility, right? When you think about it. That's like a sixth?
4, 3,
Alright,
2.
do our best not to pull aggro, otherwise I will ult at 4. Okay, I pulled aggro by just standing there. Alright, I had to do that pretty weirdly, I'll be honest. So I initially pulled aggro, and then I was very scared that I was going to pull more. Luckily we got a spinning crane kick prop, which isn't too bad to press. Doesn't do much damage, but wasn't the end of the world. And then my goal is essentially to... I mean, I could double Zenith here, but I think this dungeon has so many big trash packs that I kind of want to make sure I have Zenith for every single pull. That's going to be my main goal. Obviously, I don't want to overcap. That's not good. But even if I overcap by like a second or so, 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 5 seconds, just seconds, I don't think it's too bad. I basically just want Zenith for every single pull, because every single trash pack is big. Come on, group up. Good enough. Playing a little bit with fire there, in terms of taking damage. Ah, that was a bad blackout kick. I shouldn't have done that. Because that meant I delayed my Fist of Fury. And that's kind of the last thing I want to be doing. I don't want to delay Fist of Fury. Okay, we're doing another kind of pull here. It's a little bit smaller. But I don't want to overcap my Zenith too much, so I am just going to send. It might have been better if we pulled this into the pack around the corner, but I still have Zenith up for that. I think I would have held for about 30 seconds. Yeah, so this is going to be a bit nicer. Send out a Zenith on. And then I'll cryo-focus the Obliterator. Because I just hate casters. Oh, okay. My bad. I guess we're going for the Omega pull. I guess we're also taking this guy as well. I wish I knew this in advance, I'll be honest. We should still get Zenith for this. It's just a little bit delayed. Oh, I didn't want to cancel Pistol Fury there. But there was a lot of cast going out and I didn't like the health bars. If you thought cancelling Fist of Fury was bad previously, now it is insanely worse to cancel it for like an interrupt or movement. Like 10 times worse. Maybe not quite 10, but it's pretty bad. When the ability is where all your damage comes from, cancelling it is not ideal. Alright, that wasn't too bad. I think if I held my Zenith back on that, like, 3-pack of doggies, that would have come out a bit better, but it wasn't too bad. I can no longer diffuse magics from myself? That's kind of cool, right? I mean, I could if I took the talent, but I'm not sending. I just refuse to take that talent for something like that. Cool, and then we get to the next pack and we basically have Zenith again. This is what I'm trying to say, like the 1-minute Zenith is really, really powerful. It's obviously route specific. You need a route that kind of like makes it so that you have it up for every pull. But if it like kind of plays out like this, well, that's pretty good, right? You get your big cooldowns for every single pack. Like 1-minute cooldowns are kind of OP. That Paladin's kind of slapping. I was told that Ret Paladins suck. Is this misinformation? I watched the max tier list. I was informed that Ret Paladins were garbage. To be fair though, Windwalker was put in A tier. Funny. Windwalker's A tier in my heart. Divine Storm got buffed. It's their Fist of Fury. Ah, they have a Fist of Fury. Want to be careful here. Want to be careful here. Already got aggro. Ah, these guys are pissed. These guys are so pissed with me. I can take it though. You know when the nameplates like turn the color that they're aggressive and then they just don't turn back? That was a double double defensive angle. So now single target, right? So this is it's funny because last tier this is where I'd say like Windwalker was the strongest in keys. It was like really good at doing single target in a dungeon. But now like even if I like top the meters on this single target, which I might do, I might not, I still think it is significantly weaker. Like this is where a lot of our strength lay in M+. We're not like very strong at the moment. Specifically Shadopan, like Conduit was really good in single target. I was getting a lot of value out of it in the raid, but when you take a 13% nerf, I mean, come on. I am going to send a Zenith out here, but I'm 100% saving a Zenith for the next trash pack. It's just going to be, am I sending out 2 Zeniths here, or am I holding 2 Zeniths? We'll have to see what health it's on when in 40 seconds. But I think it'll be low enough that I'm just going to hold the 2 Zeniths for like a massive spike of damage on the next pull. Pop double Zenith with Trinket, do 500,000 damage, take a screenshot, get nerfed again. It sounds good. But like, as you can see, like, what I like about Shadopan as well is that I never feel like I'm at like a resource drought. Where Conduit, I really feel the resource drought, but a lot of the time with Shadopan, it kind of feels like I always have like something to press, like the flow keeps going. I am going to hold my Zeniths here. It is at 20%. I'm going to lose about, I'd say 30 seconds, which is about half the cooldown. But I'm a greedy goblin. And I think there's more value to me sending on a massive pack with 2. I keep standing on the tank as well. I've noticed that every single time the tank has got that mechanic, I've been stood on top of him. Alright, let's hope this is all worth it. Let's try to not get one shot. I'm going to pop both defensives here, I think. They're so mad at me. Please, no. Oh, I got turned to stone. That was so greedy. I almost got the, I almost got the Tiger's Lust off. I mean, I heard it go through, but I was on the edge. It's because this... I got hit by one of the depraved guys, and they slow you. It's my own fault. I got greedy. It happens. The power went to my head, you know. Yeah, you can't turn down a double Zenith into a massive pack. Now my cooldowns feel bad. Now they feel bad, because I'm like a... Yeah. Am I getting dispelled? Thanks. Oh, we're pulling this as well. I thought you skipped this now. I didn't even hit it that hard, please. I miss diffuse magic so much. I'm gonna save my Storm Earth and Fires for the boss. Getting those adds down is pretty important to do. Getting them down as fast as possible. They also get stacked up pretty nicely, especially with a DK, so I should just be able to hit them with a Zenith and then they'll pop. I imagine he's going to mass grip them to begin with, so I probably don't have to do anything weird to place them. I just want to make sure I get the Zenith good. I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. Try to get it in the middle. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe he's not taking mass grip. Or he's already used it from a previous pack. I'll try Ring of Peace this time to try to get them a bit closer for my next Zenith. Yeah, I don't think you have to do anything like Flurry Strike manipulation anymore or stuff like that. Like, in theory, you could technically stack up your Flurry Strikes. Like, in theory, you could, like, because you can activate them in Fist of Fury, right? Like, there is a world where you can technically force them. Like, you send them out at a certain point, but I don't think we have to go that hardcore. Like, I don't think I have to go out of my way to make sure I have a 30-stack Flurry Strike up for when the ads spawn. I think that... I mean, maybe there's a world where you can truly min-max like that, but I don't think that's the goal. The real question is to send Zenith or not to send Zenith. Because we're going to have the big ad pack coming. It is 30 seconds. I think I send it. I regret sending it. No, I don't. Yeah, I kind of do, actually. Do I? Yeah, I do. Do I? No, I don't. I thought the boss was going to die a lot faster, and now we get it back with this ad pack. I regret nothing. I was concerned because I was watching the boss health drop dramatically. I was like, actually, this is a bad call. But we have it back for this. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I want to wait for all the ads to be here. Every single one. That includes you, doggies. And then we send it. Not just for the value... Please stop hitting me. It's not just for the value of hitting them with the Zenith. It's the value of... This is my burst window, right? I want to have... Like, Fist of Fury is so important to hit them as many targets as possible to get as much value from it. To get it during its Zenith is even better. I suppose that's another thing that's going to be a bit more important now, is although Fist of Fury was strong, it's going to be so important positioning your character now. On the plus side, we no longer have clones that are going to like be really like annoying to play with. It's like, imagine like Fist of Fury being your strongest ability like this, but then you've got to also place your clones, right? Your Storm, Earth, and Fire clones, you have to make sure that they're hitting all the targets as well. Well, good luck. They have a mind of their own. They don't listen to you. So being able that all your damage comes from your player's placement, I think is a good change. Like, I know Storm, Earth, and Fire is a... It's an iconic ability, right? But it was... bad. Like, it had its issues. Like, Zenith just makes all that placement and all those bugs, like, just disappear. And it does the same thing. On paper, it's pretty much a button you press with a damage amp for a certain amount of time. Just without the added caveat of bugging out, missing certain targets, doing less damage than it should. I'll take it. Now this is a boss fight I wish I had diffused magic on. So if you have diffuse magic, or when we used to have diffuse magic, it puts out 2 dispels on like 2 players. One can get dispelled, like I did, lucky me. The other one has to sit there and suffer. So if I had like diffuse magic, I can always remove one from myself, and then, you know, the other player can get dispelled. But it's not, in my mind, that's not worth taking the talent for, that you can put it onto, you can put it onto Fortifying Brew, but in my mind it's not worth wasting the cooldown of Fortifying Brew, if that makes sense. Just to reflect. Because then I'm down to literally 1 defensive. And it's not like it's blocking damage, if it deflects, it basically removes all the damage. So that's why I'm not a massive fan of, the change they did to diffuse magic. If it also gave you the magic resistance as well, would I even like it then? Because you're still on 2 defensives. I suppose yes, because then it would be an omega, like, insanely strong defensive. Yeah, what am I talking about? I'd love it then. But, like, you're basically being like, do I want to reflect this ability and give up my biggest defensive? Not really. When I've only got 2 defensives. When I had 3, you had a bit more to play with, right? Like, you'd send the diffuse on the reflect, and you'd still have 2 other defensives to, you know, cover you. Now it's like, I send the Fortifying Brew on the deflect, well, I hope Karma's going to save my life. I'm not sending Zenith out here. I'm going to double Zenith on the trash pack that comes out next to try one-shot the boss. Oh, that's the other side of the room. I'm trying to Tiger's Lust it. Didn't work. Oh no, the healer's dead. Oh, and the DPS is dead. Getting interrupt on that. I'm gonna pop Fortifying Brew here. Maybe not necessary, because we got the healer res, but I was a bit concerned we might wipe. And then, I mean, I should have sent a Zenith, right? Like, just stop hitting me, the boss fight's over. Chill. I probably should have sent the Zenith, because it lasted longer than I thought it would, so I probably do lose value there. So we're not going to send anything until this guy does his big suck. Just wait for the big suck. I thought those ads would get here a little bit quicker, but I can't really delay the Zenith. Oh, please get a proc. I'm just sat here blackout kicking. Now that feels bad. Like, if the blackout kick gets a nice reset, then it feels good. But if you just sit there Tiger Palm blackout kicking, that does actually feel pretty bad. And this time I will wait for the ads to get here before I Zenith, because he's on lower health. Yeah, it's good enough. Nice.
I tire of your boorish presence. It seems I must deal with... Be gone, rabble!
Be gone, rabble. How's Haranar doing as Windwalker? I actually have no idea. Did that just bounce? I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, no idea how Haranar's doing. I don't even know what their racials are. Can't they put down, like, grass? Is that wrong? Don't they, like, put down grass and it heals? I don't even know. Yeah, I'm not too sure on, like, how all the races are doing, right? I think... I mean, we had a discussion a bit earlier, where I think probably, like, yeah, Night Elf. Night Elf and Dwarf are probably going to be the best, as they usually are, just because of their racials are useful for survivability, which is something we lack a little bit. So it's not always about, like, what race gives you the most damage, right? Sometimes it's which race can keep you alive or help you survive. But I don't even know what the Harronar do. They removed Last Emperor's Capacitor. Yeah, they did. In a funny sort of way, I think it's okay. Like, don't get me wrong. Extremely fun button to press. But it was also... It was kind of unhealthy in the sense that it gave us a very particular damage profile in the raid where we excelled on padding damage. Right? In M+, it was like a mid ability. It did alright in M+, but it was never like it just did average. But in Raid, it was sometimes your top DPS. And it would all be on boss fights that spawned ads that you could abuse, basically, to pad. And I think it's kind of a crux in a sense that, like, if you have such a strong ability that makes you so strong on certain, like, bosses like that, but fundamentally it's just pad, well, then you can't really get buffed in boss damage. Otherwise, your spec's going to be absolutely turbo broken, right? So, although it's like a really fun ability, I think by removing it, it does help the health of the spec in a way. Because it means they don't have to balance around us doing absurd damage at very specific points in the raid, which in quotation marks is damage that doesn't actually matter. Like, if you're trying to kill a boss, it does look cool to be top of the meters because you went Emperor Palpatine and nuked everything, right? Looks cool. But did you actually help out that much when you look at boss damage? And a lot of the time when you look at boss damage, Windwalker kind of sucked. And that's like another reason why you might like, it might have been like regarded as a bad spec class tier. Because actual boss damage and stuff was relatively weak, but it made Windwalker look strong. So when you were progging, it was actually bad to bring like that sort of spec to it because it didn't do the damage on the thing you need to die. It just, like, those ads are going to die, right? Like, you have 14 DPS, they're going to perish. So although it was really fun, like, I love Crackling Jade Lightning, right? I thought it was a really fun ability, and there was nothing more enjoyable than doing a boss like the second one in Maniforge, where you just every ad set nuke them down and you're doing the highest damage. But when you look at boss damage, you're actually near the bottom and not contributing. So by taking something like that away, it allows them to actually put power like that into your real kit, which does damage to boss damage. Now, obviously, they've tuned us so that we're pretty weak in single target now. So we are pretty weak in single target now because they've like tuned us poorly. But they can tune us. They can actually balance it, and it be like pretty spot on how they balance us through numbers. Like, rather than buffing our damage, which makes us super strong at doing that thing, as well as, you know, single targets. That kind of makes sense. I feel like it was a hard thing to balance. Thank you, Mute with Cheese Skin. Welcome back. Welcome back. Appreciate the prime. Thank you so much. Are we going to play two-hander or one-hander in M+ next season? Likely one-handers, because that's usually what you go for at the start of an expansion, because of double enchants. You just get the most value from them. So 99% confident in saying that it'll be two one-handers. So start looking at those transmogs, see which one's good. Don't forget our Apex talents will be amazing for Fist Fury damage on Midnight. Oh yeah, I like our Apex talent. I do find it kind of strange that kind of your strongest damage comes from pull in a way. It's weird in the sense that every other Zenith you send out is actually quite weak in comparison. Because you start a raid boss on 10 stacks, right? So you send out your cooldowns on 10 stacks and you do tons of damage. But then you send out your second Zenith at maybe 20 seconds. Well, that's only got 2 stacks on it, 2 or 3 stacks on it. So that's significantly weaker than your first one. And then you wait about a minute or so, and that builds up your stacks again to around 10, and you send that out, and you get a strong Zenith. And then the one after that is really weak, because you tend to send them out maybe in 2s. But if you have like a minute in between them, maybe it kind of balances them out. So I think that's fundamentally weird about Tiger's Eye Brew, is the stacking of it. Because it's like, the damage kind of goes, like, starts up here, and then drops, and then the next one's up there, and then up, and then drops, and then it's like, kind of makes sense. Like, if you send them back to back, you're fundamentally, the second one's always going to be weaker, and by quite a margin. Am I only looking at YouTube chat? I am not looking only at YouTube chat. I don't think so. How much is Fist of Fury damage doing as a percentage? Also, Spinning Crane Kick still useless? Yeah, Spinning Crane Kick's useless. So on that dungeon, it did 41% of my damage. On a Floodgate that I did, it did... do I still have it? I don't. On the Floodgate, it did 44% of my damage. On the Gambits, I'm not actually sure. I want to say 30-odd, but that was Conduit, where it would be a bit, like, weaker. So it will make up the largest portion of your damage, right? For sure, 100%. But so I think what they need to do is they need to like reduce Fist of Fury a bit and bring the other ones back up. Because I don't mind it going like this. I don't mind Fist of Fury, Flurry Strikes, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick. Like the ordering makes sense. The ordering of like how these do damage actually does make sense, right? It's just the disparity. Like, should one ability really be doing so much? Like, really, should it? I don't know. I really don't understand why they removed the damage bonus from Spinning Crane Kick proc. If I had to guess, it was because it was too strong in single target, if that makes sense. Like, when they added that in the War Within Season 2, Spinning Crane Kicks is sometimes be your strongest damaging ability in a single target boss fight, which fundamentally makes no sense. One, on the basis that you only press it when it's procced. Two, it's an AoE ability, right? So it is kind of flawed. So I think they saw that their only way to stop this being a problem was to remove that, because that's really what made it so strong in single target. But what they haven't done correctly yet is counterbalance that, because if you're playing Windwalker and it's better to not press Spinning Crane Kick in AoE than it is to press Spinning Crane Kick in AoE, something is fundamentally flawed there, you know? Like, there is something that has to be, to some degree, wrong with the damage balancing. And that's why maybe like even drop Fist of Fury damage. But the issue is if you drop Fist of Fury damage, you have to buff something else, otherwise single target takes a massive hit. I think in an ideal world, they nerf Fist of Fury damage, buff Rising Sun Kick damage, buff Spinning Crane Kick damage, and then I think that balances everything out. Because I think you'll still play the rotation to get more Fist of Fury, but not to as an extreme. You'll still want to be Spinning Crane Kick on a certain amount of targets, but then single target doesn't get fucked because Rising Sun Kick got a buff, right? But you do. But then they've also. See, I'm arguing with myself now because they've made Rising Sun Kick too strong in AoE because they've given you Skyfire Heal, they've given you Rushing Wind Kick. This ability last week, when it was only 20% stronger, was your main damaging ability. So, actually, can they buff Rising Sun Kick? Because if they do that, then you go back to what was happening last week. Yeah, I don't know. I think they might have overcooked here. Okay, slightly buff Rising Sun Kick by a little bit, right? Like tiny little bit. Nerf Fist of Fury by a little bit. Buff Spinning Crane Kick by a lot. That keeps Fist of Fury relevant. Rising Sun Kick is still decent and strong in single target, but not strong enough to overpower Fist of Fury. And then Spinning Crane Kick strong enough that you actually want to press it in AoE, but you're not going to press it in single target because it's still bad there. I think that maybe works out. Yeah, something like that. What item level was that Demon Hunter? I have no. I couldn't tell you. The Weakora details is a little bit cooked here. How long is the ramp up time on Tiger's Eye Brew? Do you mean like how often do you gain stacks? Because that's every 6.1 seconds currently for me. I'm pretty sure it said like 6.2 the other day. I'm not sure if it scales with something, but about 6 seconds. That's inside of combat. Outside of combat, it generates a lot faster, but then it only generates to 10, if that makes sense, out of combat. So 10's the cap out of combat. Otherwise, you would instantly go up to 20 and do crazy things. But realistically, you're never really going to get to 20. Because in my mind, there's no... There might be the straight, like this very specific situation where you play 2 minutes and then you would stack it up to 20, right? 6 seconds times 2 minutes is 20. Does that math? Yeah, it maths. So that's like the only time you would get it to 20. But usually I think you're probably sending it around 10. If you're sending like every minute, if you're sending every minute 30 with Conduit, then it would be like 15-ish, right? Something like that. So I'm not holding fists to get max stacks. No, you want to send fists as often and as soon as possible, really. The goal is to have it on cooldown. You don't have to worry about flurry strike stacks or anything like that anymore. You just want to send it out, get it on cooldown, get it back up, send it out again. Don't worry about flurry strikes, how many stacks you have. Obviously, you don't want to be sat at 30 stacks. But naturally, by sending out Fist of Fury as often as possible, you're not going to be sat at 30 stacks, because that's the cap. Once you're at 30, then you are losing Flurry Strike damage, but that's not going to happen with the playstyle at the moment, because you're just sending out Fist of Furies as soon as possible. In Raid, if there's a damage amp, you might hold Zenith. That's true. I was thinking, like, a good boss where you would play 2 minutes in Maniforge Omega was the Demon Hunter boss. That was like the one instance, I think, where you did play 2 minute Shadopan, and that would be a boss where you would end up getting 20 stacks of Tiger Eye Brew. Because with that boss, you lost it on pull, you had all 3 stacked together, you sent out 2 Storm Earth and Fires, you did all your damage. But then a minute 30, a minute after that, it was a little bit awkward in the fight, you had the intermission, you basically lost a lot of damage. But then at 2 minutes, or just past 2 minutes, they all came down, stacked up, and didn't do anything. So then that would be like the perfect time. So there will be situations where you can get 20 stacks if you play like 2 minutes. That is possible. But I think the fundamental issue with it is that if you're ever sending out like double Zenith, one after another, like we're talking 20-second difference, because sometimes you do it on pull, you do that. You go Zenith, 20 seconds later, you go Zenith again. Or you do the 2 minute strat where it's Zenith, 20 seconds, Zenith again. That first Zenith is always going to be so much stronger because you have it at as many stacks as you have, let's say 10. The next one's going to be at what, 2? Like 2 or 3. Like, so it's like you're always like sending out a weak Zenith after a strong Zenith, unless you're playing it like almost perfectly. Every Zenith is sent out after 1 minute, in which case then there'd be about 10 stacks. You see what I mean? So that is like a bit of a weird issue I see with it. Outside of that, it's all just kind of passive. Are changes live on beta? To my knowledge, they're not. Last I heard, they're not live. I saw some people talk about the changes makes us play one-handed weapons in M+. Likely. I don't even know if it's to do with the changes. I just think in general one-handers are better. They just tend to be better at the start of an expansion. Yeah, overall, like, from, like, chatting, testing out the specs and the hero talents and stuff, I mean, Shadopan is just better in AoE. It feels better to play, and it does more damage, so why wouldn't you? It's hard to tell in single target without doing the raid bosses. And even if I did do the raid bosses, they're such short fights that it's like, can you even learn anything from that? But on target dummies, Conduit just does so much less damage. For me, anyway. Like, even Shadopan single target is just stronger, so... I don't know. I think Conduit is in a little bit of a roughie, but I think what they have got right is the gameplay style. I think it's a cool gameplay loop for both hero talents. I just think the damage isn't there. The tuning isn't quite there. Like, shift some numbers around. I actually don't mind the focus on getting Fist of Fury out as often as possible. I think that's kind of fun, and it's like its own little mini game with Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick. If I send the second Zenith before the first Zenith ends, will the stacks last? I don't think so. I think what probably happens is it's only during your next Zenith, so they won't like it won't be like that. So like you have the 10 stacks from your first Zenith and you send out a second Zenith during that. I don't think you can send out a second Zenith during that. It won't overlap like that. So it only lasts for the duration of Zenith, if that kind of makes sense. So like if you send out a Zenith the second that one finishes, it won't carry on. It will just be for that singular one. So it'll have the same cooldown as Zenith. Spinning Crane Kick still useless? It is, but you do still play Chi-Ji. Why do you play Chi-Ji? There's only one reason you play Chi-Ji, and it's to get to Rushing Wind Kick. Otherwise, you can't get to this talent here. And this one is actually pretty decent at the moment. So you do still play it for that sole reason that it's the path to another one. Damage no good after the recent buffs? I wouldn't call them buffs. I'd call them mostly nerfs. Conduit, single target and AoE nerfed, and Shadopan single target slightly nerfed, but like very minimal. But Shadopan AoE buffed quite significantly. I just think they need to hit the mark on tuning. I think they're getting there. There's still time. I wouldn't reroll just yet. Give them until at least Heroic Week, and then we can reroll. What makes the attack speed capstone that good? Does Rising Sun Kick scale with that attack speed? I think it's literally just auto attack damage. Let me see if I can find a max eye level sim. Ooh. Like a max eye level sim. This is max eye level, right? You can see like melee just does so much damage. It's because what they did is they buffed auto attacks quite a lot in Midnight. If you look at warrior DPS, if you go look at an arms DPS or a fury, sometimes their top damage is auto attacks. So they kind of put like a bit of a prevalence on auto attacks. So this is like an overall dungeon at like I'm pretty sure max item level, and you can see like melee 4th highest damage on Sims, right? Like, and it is obviously that does include dual threat, but that's why it's so strong, right? Because they buffed how much damage auto attack does, and they gave us multiple talents that kind of loop into that. And they did it for a lot of melee specs. They pretty much all of them they buffed auto attack damage. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why they did it, but that's the reason why you want to take these talents. It's because auto attacks are just stronger now, just naturally. Am I running double on use trinkets and M+? No, right now I'm just kind of keeping everything how I did in the War Within. I'm not like straying too far or like going too crazy with like gear and stuff like that. So I've just been using a 2-minute trinket and a passive trinket that I had from the raid, because realistically in a week all this gear's gone. I'm not tryharding or anything. I'm just trying to get a feel for things. I've heard people say that double passive trinkets are better for Shadopan. They probably are. But I'm just happy running my Raz Ritual Forge at the moment, because there's nothing more satisfying than pressing this button and sending out cooldowns to a massive number. But Shadopan was a little bit leaning towards double passive trinkets anyway at points in Season 3. I don't think it ever fully got there, because Raz Ritual Forge was just disgustingly strong, right? But you could in some situations run double passive trinkets. Or double active trinkets, actually. I ran that in a bunch of content as well, but I'm a gremlin, so. Saw my Prism on cooldown on CDM. Oh yeah, it's because I keep them both here. Specifically just for... It's more like a thing that I did during Dementius, because I ran double on use, or M+, when I used to run double on use and M+, so I just keep them both there. Just so I always knew what their timers were. I'll sort that out at some point. But I think that will be it from me today. Not like a crazy long stream, 3.5 hours, ish, but yeah, thank you for the warm welcome back. I've really had a good time. I might stream again before midnight. I might not. I might focus more on making videos, if that makes sense, because I know people are interested in potentially UI sort of things. Everybody's interested in how do I play Windwalker in the next expansion? Well, I'll be real, that does take a little bit of time for me to, write and make. So I wanted to do a stream because I made some videos recently and I wanted to come back and just kind of hang out, chat, chill, and mess about, and kind of show that the Windwalker still has potential. Yeah, I think I'll focus a little bit more on YouTube for the next week or so, and then I think I'll definitely stream midnight launch. Not the nighttime though, because I'm an unk now. I'm a little bit too old to be streaming at 11 p.m. Like if I start my stream at 11 p.m. when the expansion launches, I'll be tired by 11:30 and I'll have to go to bed. I'd rather do it the next morning. That's what I did for the last expansion as well. That's when you know you're old. When an expansion comes out at late, whatever your time zone is, my time zone's late, right? And I'm like, I'll just do it in the morning. I'll just start the next expansion in the morning. I'm too tired. That's when you know. That's when you know it's over. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Fun times. Yeah, I'll start working on some of those videos. Yeah, thank you for hanging out, chilling. Can I make a video about Heart of the Jade Serpent windows? Yeah, I think what I'm looking to do is not make one big video this time. I've done that for the past 2 ones. It does mean that the videos might not all come out like at the same time at the start of the expansion. It might look like a little thing. But I think it makes more sense and it's better. It's easier viewing for like someone to watch if you know a video is just about Shadopan Monk, right? And how to play Shadopan Monk and what you need to be aware of the Shadopan Monk. But if that's inside of a long form video, it can be quite a lot to like take all that in at once. Does that kind of make sense? Like Conduit makes sense for one video where I talk about Conduit, what everything means, all that jazz, and then it's easy to refer back to. So I think I'll probably do something more like that. But it just means that there won't be like one massive video that comes out at the start of the expansion. It'll be more delayed. It'll be easier for me to do as well. So I am leaning a bit more towards that. I think it makes sense. I'm excited for the new changes. Yeah, I'm happy. I love the playstyle of Windwalker at the moment. I think it's fun. I just think it needs a little bit of tuning change, but like generally speaking, I'm happy with the flow of the play. I'm happy with the rotation. I just think numbers are a little bit off, and that's the easiest thing for Blizzard to change. So I'm super positive. Like if Windwalker was fundamentally broken, like really broken, like it was last week with not pressing Fist of Fury, then I'd be a bit concerned. But I feel like they've gone in the right direction. They might have just gone a little bit too extreme with what they changed. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye-bye.